I've seen the fire in our nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage. But the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. Let revival start where the anger breaks. Where the anger breaks. Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Not in Jesus' name. Not in His name. No room for hate.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
Got a vendetta. Coffee tastes like bad decisions I ain't made yet. Boss man talking about we got her, and that means me, brother. Afraid I got a terminal case of the I don't want us. Mind checked out, heart ain't in the building. That second hand's crawling like it hates my guts. The man treating rich like it's a sin. Even God took a beat. So, suck it. Thank God it's Friday, punching out loud. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill still waiting, but tonight I don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday. Cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, work and wait. It ain't owning me. So raise them up high. Let the whistle blow. Thank God it's Friday. That's all I know. HR in the break room sounding like a preacher, talking about culture smiles and team players. Clipboard dreams on the fluorescent light, selling hours of my life just to make it to Friday night. Got dirt on my jeans, and grease on my hands, clock more overtime than quality plans. But when that bell rings, it's a holy sound. Feel like chains hit the floor when it echoes around. I ain't lazy, I just work my fill. If rest is a sin, guess I always will. Thank God it's Friday, punching out alive. Hands in the air, middle finger to 9 to 5. Bill's still waiting, but tonight don't care. Cold beer sermon and a bar stool prayer. Take this job and shove it, I quit. Till Monday, 'cause tonight I'm free. Yeah, working way. It ain't on me. So raise 'em up.
And, that's a little bit too much gain there, brother man. A little bit too much gain. Welcome into the program, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rick Robinson. We are live right here on the Friday. Finally, Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. We got a Denny sighting in the chat room so far. I know a lot of folks are saying they're having issues with the X chat. Just a reminder, we do have the Facebook chat and we also have the YouTube chat. Those are actually integrated. So if you can't figure out how to make one of them work, just feel free to slide over into the other one. And if you don't want to chat, that's fine too. It's okay. Anyway, it is Friday. I know. I'm struggling. I'm not going to lie. I am struggling today. I've already done one set of production work, but I worked until midnight last night because BZ was like, hey, you want to do a show? And I'm like, I really shouldn't because I have to be up early. And I was like, yeah, I'll do it. So yeah, I worked until midnight, about midnight, 1 o'clock, and then was up again by like 6 trying to get ready for things. And so yeah, I am struggling, but today is the day. So we've got the Finally Friday edition followed by the Weekend News Roundup, which for today should be myself, the bloviating Zeppelin, and then as well as Amy Curtis from Town Hall. And we'll be kicking that off as soon as we wrap this one and as soon as I confirm everybody's coming. They said so last night, but you know, we were all 3 up late, so I don't know. It may or may not happen. We'll find out together. But anyway, it is Friday. Hope everybody's having a very great and wonderful day. And I just realized I don't have my right set of notes open yet. So one moment, please. Did I mention I'm sleep deprived? I know I said that last Friday too, so it really shouldn't count anymore. But yeah, it's a thing. I said last week, Thursdays are for some reason starting to suck for me. But even though we got a bit of a later start and I had to let the intros run a bit long because I was still working with technical issues behind the scenes, we do have a lot to get into today. But before we get into everything else, I want to, in case you've been living under a rock, Luigi, not the Mario brother, Mangione, pled guilty today to federal charges without any type of a plea deal. So the thing that everybody was really worried about was dude was about to get some sort of a sweetheart deal. He did not get any concessions at all from the federal government. I think he was so concerned about what was going to happen with the state trial that he just wound up maybe thinking that even if I have to serve, life sentences, maybe I can get club fed or something. I don't think that's going to happen, though. Because New York does have double jeopardy rules, which attach to both state and federal charges. The state charges in New York will likely be dismissed. However, now that he's actually admitted, yes, I did shoot him. Yes, I printed the gun. Yes, I took the gun across state lines, blah, 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 blah. There's a good chance he may get some state charges and where they picked him up at now, too. So I don't know if his attorneys just decided they'd had enough or if he was just like, there's nothing else I'm going to be able to do. I'm not going to talk about that one too much because that wasn't anything I really planned on talking about today until it became like a huge news story because there's so many other things that I want to talk about. This nozzle is not one of them. For the family of the guy that was shot and killed, who has been taking all kinds of grief and having people treating you guys like monsters, my thoughts and prayers are with you. This will hopefully be one of the last times I talk about this sleazeball at all. But again, we do have a lot to get into today, and that wasn't even on my stack of stuff. Just wanted to start there because reasons. So the show notes officially begin in Wisconsin because I think much of the political press is interpreting Tuesday's Democratic gubernatorial primary exactly backward. The reassuring version of the story goes something like this. The Democratic Socialists of America, they finally ran into a wall. The adults in the Democratic Party finally prevailed, except there are really no adults in the Democratic Party. Not that there are really any adults in the Republican Party either, let's be completely honest. But Wisconsin Democrats looked at Francesca Hong, looked at her record, looked at her rhetoric, and ultimately rejected the socialist experiment by that much. Therefore, everybody can breathe now. There's nothing to worry about here. We told you this wouldn't be able to happen in a swing state, except Francesca Hong didn't lose by 20 points. She didn't get blown out of the water. She didn't get laughed out of the state and run out on a rail. She didn't finish in a distant third after Wisconsin Democrats considered her ideology and decisively rejected it. She lost by 3,211 votes. I'm going to say that again. 3,211 votes separated an actual Democratic socialist with a capital S from becoming the Democratic nominee for governor in one of the most politically competitive states in America. That is roughly 0.4 of 1 percentage point for those of you that like to do math. So no, my first reaction is not relief. It's not a sigh and a call to relax. And it's not, oh, look, the socialists lost. My first reaction is, holy crap. A capital S socialist came that close to winning in a swing state. And I want to make an important distinction here because candidate quality matters. Hong had liabilities out the wazoo. She had made comments that were easy to turn into opposition material. Some prominent figures on the left stayed away from the race. Bernie Sanders didn't even endorse her. The occasional Cortex didn't endorse her. I'm telling you right now, if Sanders had endorsed her, she probably would have won. Now, and we talked about this a little bit on BZ's show last night. The most embarrassing thing about Tuesday night wasn't the candidates and it wasn't the voters. The people that should be the most embarrassed were the pollsters because they had her running away with it by like 20 points. And she lost. She didn't lose by much. She damn sure didn't lose by enough for everybody to be taking a victory lap and be like, we told you the socialists weren't going to be able to get no. This is not a victory lap moment. This is a Republicans need to wake the F up moment. I said this last night on BZ's show. If you don't know this by now, it is time for you to listen to what I'm about to say. There is about a hair's breadth between the two parties. The only thing that shook things up, and I thought for a while was going to change things, was Donald Trump coming onto the scene. The problem is the bull in the china shop's been neutered. And I don't say that lightly because it took me a while to warm up to Trump. You guys remember me in 2016, I couldn't bring myself to vote for him. I helped get the Libertarian Party on the ballot in Oklahoma because I felt like Oklahoma needed other choices. Then I realized how nuts the big L libertarians are, which is why I'm still a libertarian, but it's with a little L because I'm not quite as crazy as they are. But Trump, this term, has done a lot of good things. He really has. But his messaging on a lot of the good things that he's doing has sucked balls, and not in a good way. I'm just saying. The whole everybody's upset with the Iran war. You know why? Because he spent his entire election cycle saying no new wars. and then didn't ever really bother to explain to everybody that Iran wasn't a real war, a new war. It's not a real war, but a new war. It's not a new war. It is real. They've been at war with us since 1979, and they know it. But they also know that the American people, when it comes right down to it, have the heart of squishes nowadays. So they're hoping if they can just drag things out just a little bit longer, there'll be a power shift in DC, and then they're going to go back to getting everything they want, which is what they always get from the left. And they're hoping if they can make this as distasteful as possible for the American voters for as long as possible, they're just going to do what they always do and show up for the opposition party and go, okay, we tried, it didn't work. Here's the other thing that irritates me about the attention span of the American people, because if you look at it historically, everybody always says the country does better under Democrats. Really, if that was true, what happened with Washington, D.C.? What happened with Michigan? What happened with cities like Detroit? It's been blue for forever. Here's the thing that nobody really talks about. It looks like things are better on paper when the Democrats are in charge, because the Republicans get in charge so few and far between that they start doing things to turn the economy around. It doesn't happen as fast as those of us that have the attention span of a gnat and the memory of a goldfish would like to have happen. So 2 years later, we're voting for the other guys again. So by then, the policies that the Republicans put in place are finally starting to kick in. The economy's starting to hum, and guess who gets all the credit? And then they change everything and they start running it back into the ground again. And then we go, oh, maybe we should give the other guys a turn again. Oh, they couldn't fix the 8 years worth of crap in a year. That's not good enough. All of this is just nuts to me. Look, I'm not trying to make fun of the younger crowd that thinks socialism is the way to go. As a matter of fact, I have been so inspired by some of the things that I have been researching lately that even though I started with children's books and I have some of those coming through the pipeline, I'm actually writing my first official political book. I'm just starting in the outline phase. Don't get too happy. It'll be a minute because it's probably going to be about as thick as the one I just bought from Amy Curtis when I'm done with it. Because there's things that I don't think anybody teaches anymore, and I'm going to try to teach them. It either will work or it won't. But again, the reason this is frustrating as all get out is we're talking about a capital S socialist nearly winning everything, even if it was by a hair's breadth. So I do want to make one important distinction here, because candidate quality matters, and we talked about this before. She had lots of liabilities. So there were institutional Democrats who clearly believed she would be a disastrous general election candidate, and that is true. It is also true that she nearly won anyway. That is the part that should be grabbing our attention. It should outright be commanding our attention. Wisconsin is not just a deep blue city council district. It is a swing state. Its governorship matters. Its election administration matters. Its policies matter. And the candidate aligned with the DSA came within a few thousand votes of capturing one of the two major party nominations for governor. The argument that this was merely a flawed candidate falling short misses the larger point. A stronger candidate running the same ideological playbook with fewer self-inflicted wounds might have won, and in fact, he did. While it's not necessarily a reason for panic yet, it is a reason to be paying very close attention. So David Crowley won the primary, and that's how the story goes. But he got the story behind all that and how he got there is interesting. He had dropped out of the race in July because he did not see a path to victory. He returned after Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez ended her campaign amid a campaign finance controversy. Governor Tony Evers endorsed Crowley and campaigned with him. The institutional party rallied around the candidate it believed had the best chance to stop Hong. And even with that intervention, the margin was 3,211 votes. Now, here's the problem. While the headline is not simply that the socialists lost, the headline is that the socialists nearly won in Wisconsin in a race for governor after much of the Democratic establishment recognized the danger, moved to stop her, and then floated a much more polished version of her. There's only one real policy issue that he's already said this. There's really only one policy issue where there's daylight between Hong and Crowley, and that was data centers. So, yes, the Democrats tried to rally. They stopped the one who was running as an outright socialist. They've now managed to install one who didn't run as a socialist, but is using some of the very same campaign rhetoric. He wants to dissolve things like ICE. He wants to defund the police. He wants to do all of those fun socialist things. But it doesn't stop there, though, either, because we still have to talk about Milwaukee, because the administration of the election became part of the story. The city's results were delayed after election workers exported the wrong information onto the USB drives instead of the vote totals. 5 of the 9 drives reportedly contained audit logs. We talked about this on Wednesday. Staff then had to retrieve the correct data, delaying the reporting by more than an hour. The video of the process matters, and I don't have that clip. I wish I would have thought to grab it, but I didn't. The screen reportedly displayed the words export audit log, followed by a confirmation prompt. That does not prove fraud. It doesn't prove votes were changed. It doesn't establish that anybody was trying to manipulate the outcome, but it does establish that human error becomes a lot less likely when there's a giant button that says export log and they pressed it anyway. And that is definitely a preventable administrative error. And that did occur in one of the most closely watched elections in the country. That distinction matters. We don't need to inflate an error into a conspiracy in order to insist that it was unacceptable. USB drives do not contain the wrong files all the time. Anybody who has ever tried, or they do contain the wrong files all the time. Anybody who has ever tried to give a presentation 5 minutes before a meeting understands this. There was that one time at band camp. Just saying. The difference is that when I accidentally put the wrong PowerPoint on a thumb drive, control of the state government is generally not hanging in the balance. That is why election systems deserve a higher standard. This was not Milwaukee's first recent election administration problem either. Critics have pointed to an unseated voting machine door in 2024, ballot shortages in 2025, and now the wrong export in 2026. Each event has its own facts. None should be casually transformed into proof of a stolen election. Should, however, be a continuing run of proof of potential incompetence. Taken together, however, they also create a completely legitimate question about training, procedures, redundancy, and public trust. State Representative Scott Krug has called for a legislative investigation into Milwaukee's central count. He has also said he remains open to allowing earlier processing of absentee ballots, while warning that an extra processing day would not solve personnel and training problems by itself. That is a reasonable place to begin. Find out exactly what happened, document it, and correct the process, and then make the safeguards visible to the public. Election officials often ask the public to trust the system. Trust is not created by telling people that every concern is dangerous. Trust is created by demonstrating competence, which is something Milwaukee doesn't seem to have. They also have to acknowledge their mistakes and then correct those mistakes and show the work so people can see that they've actually corrected those mistakes. The result in Wisconsin should stand or fall on verified ballots and lawful procedures, not on speculation. The available reporting says the delay involved an incorrect data export, not altered votes. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what I call the Joe Friday version, just the facts and only the facts. But the Joe Friday version is still serious. In an extraordinarily close statewide primary, Milwaukee election staff made an avoidable mistake while exporting results, and the public deserves a full explanation of how it happened and how it will be prevented in November. Now, step back from the mechanics of the count and look at the political movement that almost won. The Democratic Socialists of America does not describe its electoral work as a collection of unrelated candidates who happen to share some policy preferences. Its own national co-chair, Megan Romer, described a deliberate strategy for building power through elections. David Remnick of The New Yorker asked her about that strategy. We're going to be playing a clip here in just a moment, and I want you to listen very closely and very carefully to the language that she used. It'll take me a second to get it queued up because that was part of what I was fighting with earlier. So one moment, please. Oh, man. Okay, I think I got that one.
Are people to hit and really do a major voter outreach operation. And we weren't going to do that for Kamala Harris. And I don't know that it would have made a difference if we had. Well, I don't know that she wanted it.
This article in Jacobin, which is, I think a DSA-aligned journal, it's called A Blueprint for a New Party. And it said the goal is not to immediately form a third party, which is seen as suicidal in America's two-party tyranny, but to, quote, mount the electoral equivalent of guerrilla insurgency, unquote, by using the Democratic Party line.
We do love to talk like that, don't we?
Is that a good idea, Megan?
I think people like us being rather bold. I think the boldness actually.
It's sort of the badass imagery.
Someone's got to be. People are furious about Trump and the Democratic Party. I mean, James Carville's writing op-eds that say "roll over and play dead." Like, what is that? People want a fighter, and I think they appreciate that we just come right out and say it.
So. Before we came on, we alluded to the fact that you were just on Fox News and you read a series of positions, statements. You very cheerfully responded, yes, without any embarrassment to this, series of issues. I think open borders was one. Why are you for open borders? I think to a lot of ears, it sounds like.
All right, so there's the first clip that we're going to be playing today. I have several that we'll be pulling from kind of the same source video, just to give you an idea of who it is that we are officially starting to fight against, whether anybody wants to admit it or not. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Because, like it or not, there has been a shift within the Democratic Party. The more scary thing about this, and this is something that is just now starting to be noticeable for those of you that are paying attention, the Democratic Party is running left. Our party, or our group, our side, the supposed conservatives, are shuffling left at the same time. So there is an electoral guerrilla insurgency. That's her description, not mine. That phrase tells you how the organization sees its relationship with the Democratic Party and with existing political institutions. The objective is not merely to publish a platform and hope voters discover it. It is to recruit candidates, organize inside Democratic primaries, concentrate resources where relatively small numbers of motivated voters can determine the outcome, and accumulate power through institutions that already exist. That makes Wisconsin more than an isolated result because it's actually a field test. And that test nearly succeeded. The movement will study the result. It will look at where Honk performed well, where she underperformed, which messages worked, which liabilities hurt her, and what a more disciplined candidate might do next time. Everybody else should study it too, because if you hear socialist and picture a fringe candidate standing on a street corner with a homemade sign, you're looking at an old political model. The modern DSA is organized. It understands how primaries work. It understands how turnout works and how to make turnout happen. It understands that a motivated minority can, in fact, exercise outsized influence when the broader electorate is distracted or disengaged. And it also understands the value of popular language. Phrases and words like affordability, housing, healthcare, wages, corporate power. Those are real concerns, and they are effective points of entry. Because that's the part nobody talks about. The people that are being swept up by this are only happy because they feel like somebody's finally listening to them. And it doesn't really seem like it's as crazy as an idea because for the first time ever, they feel like these people are being listened to. And the problem is we're now seeing people on our side of the aisle mirror that same language because they're saying we can't keep treating this as if it's just a bunch of stupid kids that don't understand how the economy works, when in reality, it is mostly a bunch of stupid kids who don't understand how the economy works. But we're not allowed to say those things anymore because that would hurt feelings. And this is where the New Yorker interview becomes useful because Rimnick does what more interviewers should do. He listens to the slogan and then asks for the policy. So we're going to take a break, but after the break, David Rimnick asks Megan Romner one of the simplest questions imaginable. He says the DSA wants to tax the hell out of millionaires. He asked, what does that actually mean? The answer tells us a great deal about the difference between campaigning and governing. This is the Rick Robinson Show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Now, this is normally when I do the law enforcement break. However, we are going to still work that in at a later time because we have someone in the KLRN radio family who has lost one of their own. So we have a special tribute song that has been put together for that person that we'll be playing in just a moment as soon as I get it queued up. And then we will be right back. I'm going to put it onto something else, though, so you're not looking at my mug the whole time. So anyway, we'll just do this. All right, we'll be right back. Hope you guys are enjoying your Friday, and we'll see you on the other side of the break.
Born in Oklahoma City, 1943, young Manny Beck raised his hand for the guard at 16. Then the call came hard and the jump boots laced tight. Special forces training, Green Beret in the light. He shipped out to Nam in the heat of 68. Project Sigma, B-56, the secret ones who wait. Manny Beck, walking point in the dark. McVie sober recon, leaving no mark. From the jungle trails where the shadows still speak, to the Oklahoma sky where the rotor blades peak. Hero on the ground, guardian in the air. Manny Beck still standing, ready to defend anywhere. 1-0 and 1-1 on teams that few would know, across the fence into places no map would show. A ruck on his back and indigenous brothers at his side, extract under fire while the gunships would ride. He watched those Huey crews risk it all for the team, and swore he'd learn those wings when the war was a dream. Manny Beck, walking point in the dark. McVie sober recon, leaving no mark. From the jungle trails where the shadows still speak, to the Oklahoma sky where the rotor blades peak. Hero on the ground, guardian in the air. Manny Beck still standing, still answering the prayer. Home from the war, 3 years on the street, and 27 more in the OCPDC. Lieutenant of the Air Support Unit, watching over the town. Same steady hands that once pulled the ropes down. Flew for the guard to CW3 in the sky. Special ops aviation till the years made him fly. From Camp Hongok to the lights of OKC, one life of quiet service, one long duty free. Wife Shirley waiting, decades of love by his side. A soldier, a pilot, a man with nothing to hide. Manny Beck, the quiet ones remember. The recon man who flew when the city needed a defender. From the classified trails to the patrols up high, Oklahoma's own warrior under the wide open sky. Hero on the ground, guardian in the air. Manny Beck, we salute you, and ready to defend anywhere. Your service, love, and devotion still brings a tear. Manny Beck. Manny Beck.
And welcome back into the It's Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRradio.com. And to Mr. Manny Beck and the family of Mr. Manny Beck. First of all, Godspeed, sir. We have the watch. And to the family, you are in our thoughts. All right. Back to the program as it stands, because we have way too much to get through. All right. So let me get back into my notes here. So the slogan at some point has to become policy. So welcome back into the Rick Robinson Show. So before the break, we heard Megan Romer, the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialist of America, describe the organization's approach as an electoral guerrilla insurgency. That phrase is important because it tells us the DSA does not consider what happened in Wisconsin, some random political accident. The strategy is to recruit candidates, organize inside Democratic primaries, concentrate resources where relatively small numbers of motivated voters can determine the outcome, and gradually build power inside institutions that already exist. So you remember when I said what concerns me about this is even if it doesn't happen now, we are getting to the point where we're moving from a foothold scenario to a beachhead scenario. And based on the language that she is using, they understand that too. Because Francesca Hong, remember, came within approximately 3,200 votes of making that strategy work in a gubernatorial race. And the scariest part is the establishment Democrats thought they stopped her. And this guy that is now their candidate is only one policy different from her. They disagreed about data centers, everything else they line up with. So now we're going to have to move beyond the strategy because their strategy didn't really work. They thought it did, but it's kind of like, remember what happened in Virginia? She ran as a centrist and then got elected and just sprinted left as quickly as possible. I still think that was dumb because, look, I have no illusions that this is not going to be a toss-up in November because it seems like every time we think things are going our way, our side manages to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. But at the same time, it could have been a blowout. If these people would have just hung on to their crazy bits just for a couple more months, it could have been a blowout, and then we would have been screwed. Even if they take things back, I think they're going to wind up being in the same kind of position the right is in now. The difference is when the left gets in that position, they will fight tooth and nail with rocks and spears and words and whatever they got. Look at what they've done to Trump. They have sued him repeatedly to slow down his progress. It doesn't matter that they've drained their entire coffers, ladies and gentlemen, to slow him down. Nobody talks about that part. They were broke to begin with, but with all these lawsuits that they're bringing, they're getting even more broke, but they don't care because if they can slow him down, if they can make it seem like he's not able to get anything done, it's going to make it that much easier for them to first win back the House and the Senate and then hopefully win back the presidency in 2028. So this is where David Remnick's interview with Romer becomes especially valuable. Remnick did not scream at her. He did not call her a communist. Probably should have, but he didn't. He didn't turn the interview into a cable news food fight. Hello, Sean Hannity. He did something much more revealing. He asked follow-up questions. That should not be revolutionary journalism, but apparently we live in revolutionary times. One of the Democratic Socialists of America's most familiar economic positions is that billionaires should not exist and millionaires should be taxed much more heavily. Romer offered the slogan in its bluntest form, tax the hell out of the millionaires. Remnick asked the obvious question, what does that actually mean? And give me a second because I'm gonna get
Hit the doors and hit the phones and
that's not the right one, but I'm gonna load it. Hang on. All right, this one should be though.
again, I don't have like a solid, but I think.
But shouldn't you? I mean, if you're the co-chair of the DSA, shouldn't you be more specific than just taxing the hell out of something? What exactly do you mean?
So again, it's democracy, right? And we have to look at what we need to spend and what we need. We don't want to depend on the existence of millionaires because that means people are still getting exploited. So yeah, we need to look at what we need to pay for in the interim, what sort of tax base we need for that to happen, and then and build from there.
Is support of Israel in any form essentially a red card in DSA? As I understand it, in 2024, DSA's National Political Committee withdrew its endorsement of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez over her support for a House resolution stating that denying Israel's right to exist is a form of anti-Semitism. And her local chapter stuck with her. And this was an argument that continued on. Where are you on it?
Yeah, so that was like a very complicated and very like inter-DSA bureaucratic question, but convention decided that, yeah, this is a solid red line. No defense or economic support for Israel.
Does Israel have the right to defend itself, according to DSA?
And the answer to that question is a resounding no, but we'll probably come back to that in a bit. So, hang on. Let me just go ahead and clear that out of here for now. All right. And so, yeah, so there you heard it in her own words. But if there are such a thing as millionaires, then people are still being exploited. So that exchange is very revealing, not because every political advocate must carry a complete tax code in her pocket. Nobody expects a national co-chair to recite marginal brackets down to the decimal point. But when taxation is one of the movement's central promises, there should be some answer between a slogan and a shrug. What income level triggers the new rate? Are we talking about annual income, net worth, unrealized gains, accumulated assets, or probably all of the above? What rate is contemplated? What happens to family businesses, farms, retirement assets, and capital that can move? How much revenue is expected and which programs depend on that estimate? Those are not hostile questions. They're governing questions. The inability or unwillingness to answer them tells voters that the emotional force of the policy may be more developed than the policy itself. And the language matters. Millionaire no longer describes only a cartoon tycoon sitting on a mountain of gold or swimming through his money bin. Depending on the definition, it can include small business owners, retirees, farmers, and families whose property or long-term savings appreciated over decades. The destination itself can involve restructuring, ownership, limiting private wealth, and transferring major parts of the economy into public or worker-controlled ownership. That may be an argument the DSA is willing to make. Fine, make it plainly. Tell voters what will be taxed at what rate, under what authority, and what will happen when the projected revenue does not materialize. The same test applies when the subject moves from money to public safety. The phrase defund the police became politically toxic after 2020, and many politicians who had embraced it began searching for softer language. But Romer was asked directly whether the goal was to reduce police funding to zero. And again, I want you to listen very closely to her answer here in just one moment.
Every year, there's that don't get tested.
Should they be maintained?
I am not in favor of getting rid of police entirely tomorrow.
No, defunding the police means no funding. I think that's
I don't think so.
English.
I think it means
Yeah.
I think it means taking funding back and moving it elsewhere. Right. So pulling some of that funding back.
To what
and moving
extent?
It elsewhere. To the extent to which we are fully funding social services, to which we are fully funding schools, lunch programs for kids, after school programs for kids. Communities should be clean and they should be safe. We should be funding putting trees up so people have more.
I don't think anybody's going to argue about any of that, trees or anything of the like, but they're concerned.
But they do, because there's always more money for the police budgets, and there is never money for how do we just literally make our communities safer, nicer, healthier, and that does come to the
Megan,
question. We say we don't have enough money.
Why do you think a number of politicians in your orbit who use the rhetoric of defund the police have kind of taken it back or muffled it or gotten rid of it entirely?
I think you see, different phrasings of the same idea. And, if we're just talking about branding, I think that's not really the exercise we need to be spending a bunch of time on. I think we need to be talking to people about what makes your community safe. And that is how DSA functions. We have a million conversations on the door. We are out in the communities actually changing minds. Democrats really like a slogan. They like an ad. They like a mailer.
You've made an argument for abolishing the Senate. And we both live in a state that has I don't know what multiple of a population of Wyoming, which also has 2 senators. We all understand that. The Electoral College, we understand why it was put in place in the first place.
Oh, yeah, she understands why it was put in place. But here's the thing. They don't really want to dissolve the Senate. They just want to change something. And here's the thing. If you listen to the DSA folks, they tell you all the time that they feel like the Senate is anachronistic. And the sad part is, ladies and gentlemen, they're not wrong. As soon as it became elected by the people instead of being the voice of the states, it became something that wasn't really necessary anymore. There is a reason the House of Representatives was elected by the population and the Senate was appointed by the states. It gave the states a say in how the federal government treated them. That voice has been taken away. So the fact that they're wanting to create a unicameral legislature and basically remove the second house, but fold it in and expand Congress, doesn't necessarily mean they want to get rid of the senators. They just want to get rid of the Senate itself because to them, it's not necessary anymore. And unfortunately, after the passage of the 17th Amendment, they're not necessarily wrong. That's the scariest part. That's why some of this stuff can and does make sense to people, because you can look at it logically and you can understand why they say we don't really need the Senate anymore. It's nothing but a logjam factory. That's it. Even when the side that we agree with is in power, half the time the senators don't want to do anything. And it doesn't matter. But the scariest part isn't that they want to do away with the Senate. It's the fact that they want to do away with the Senate, create a unicameral legislature. They want to either expand and pack the court for the Supreme Court or get rid of it altogether. And now Hakeem Jeffries is basically saying that there are no options that are off the table when it comes to that when we get back in charge again. Which, of course, the more right-leaning outlets are like, oh, my God, he's going to nuke the Supreme Court. You know why they're saying that? Because there's a good chance it might actually happen. Because, like I said, now everybody on the left is running to the left. They're doing the cha-cha slide closer and closer to the cliff because it's the only way that they can stay relevant now. And they know it. The problem is our side is figuring it out, too. That's why you're starting to see more and more people from our side maybe saying, well, maybe it really is life is too hard for these kids these days. Really? Because guess what? Life has been hard all over from the dawn of time. If you wanted life to be easy, somebody should invent a time machine and go kick Adam in the nuts and say, don't you dare. I know she's saying if you want any more of this, you're going to take a bite, but don't you dare. Because that would have been the only way our life ever would have been easy. Just saying. And I know, oh my God, he's talking about the bite. I don't care. Look, here's the other thing, and this isn't even part of my notes. Then we're going to get ready to take the top of the hour break. But here's the thing, and I'm just going to be honest here for just a second. If you don't have some form of faith, you're about to have your ass handed to you because Islam is walking all over you and eating your lunch. If you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to take a really quick scan and use your favorite AI tool or Google or whatever and say, tell me about the state that just said they want nothing but Islamists to start running for their political offices. Because it's a thing, and it's real. We may bring that up during the Weekend News Roundup because it's actually not part of my notes today. Now, since we did play something a little different in the mid-break, we're going to go ahead and do the military tribute now, and then we're going to come back with top of the hour and keep on rolling. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We'll be right back.
Before the oath was spoken out loud, before you stood apart from the crowd, there was a moment, quiet and clear, when you chose to stand while others stayed here. You raised your hand with a steady resolve, knowing some nights don't end when the mission's done. Not for glory, not for the pay, but for something worth more than walking away. Only hold the line. They carried the weight where the roads ran long, through dust and heat when the days went on, holding ground mile after mile, doing the work that rarely drew a smile. They stood their post when relief ran late, shoulders squared under the pull of fate. Not chasing headlines, not asking why, just staying put when others pass by. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. We stand watch over the deep. They kept their watch where the water turns black, miles from shore with no quick way back, measuring time by the rise and the fall, answering duty's unrelenting call. Through silent hours and endless seas, they stood their post in the cold night breeze, guarding the lanes the world depends on, so others slept and the light stayed on. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Simplify Marine, we go where we're sent. We go where we're sent. They moved as one when the moment came, side by side through fire and rain. First a step where the ground was thin, not for the odds but for the ones beside them. Trust was earned in the hard way through, every promise carried by the few. No turning back once the line was crossed. They stood shoulder to shoulder as brothers, never counting the cost. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One old spoken carried through, wherever duty calls us to. Air Force, the sky is our domain. Air Force, the sky is our domain. They held their focus where seconds seem eternal, soaring between clouds and blue. Every movement measured and true, knowing what one clean moment could do. They watched the whole while guarding the small, every mission tied to a larger call. Calm under pressure, steady and clear, keeping the promise from far overhead. Space Force, we guard the dark without faith. They keep their vigil where silence reigns, beyond the weather, beyond the rain, watching the paths that the world relies on long before the warning lights come on.
Cloud, no banners, no clear view.
Just constant care in a canvas full of stars.
Standing the watch through the endless night.
Guarding the systems that keep us in light. While the watch is kept and the lines hold fast, there are lives still moving on the other side of that.
Empty chairs and quiet phones. Long goodbyes that don't feel done.
Names we carry but never say. Folded flags and debts we pay. Every service, every scar reaches farther than the uniform ever could.
Coast Guard, we come when it matters most.
They launch into storms when hope feels thin. Turning back isn't an option then. Hands reach out where the waters rise, pulling lives back from the edge of time. No headlines waiting when the call is done. Just breathing restored and another life won. Every rescue, every return, a quiet promise kept in the worst conditions. We stand the watch in different ways, different nights, the same long days. One unspoken carry through wherever duty calls us to. For the ones who raised the right hand high,
Swore the oath and didn't ask us why.
for the nights you stood where freedom cost.
We remember, we on, we won't forget the loss.
From the ground to the sea to the open sky, to the guardians above where the silent stars fly. Every branch, every badge, every battle scar, because you stood.
We live free.
Lord, each know.
We stand here freely.
Because others stood before us. We accept the weight of what was given and the cost that came with it. We promise to remember those who serve, those who stand watch still, and those who never came home.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage, but the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor, treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place.
Let revival start where the anger breaks.
Where the anger breaks.
Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
No, no room for hate.
No room for hate.
Not in Jesus' name. Oh, not in this house. Not in this heart. Not in His name. No room for hate.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
What we feel.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, we're in hurry up offense because I got way too many notes and we got less than an hour to get through them because we got the Weekend News Roundup coming up right behind me. So yeah, we're not. We didn't play all the fun stuff, and I'm sorry. Today's not really a fun episode anyway because things are scary. They really are. So again, before we went to the break, we were discussing the whole Megan Romer talking about defund the police and how she's like, we should defund them to zero, but not really. So this isn't merely a dispute over whether a city should move a few dollars from one department to another. It's an argument about whether the institution of policing should continue to exist in anything resembling its present form. Supporters will say that public safety can be reimagined through social services, mental health response, housing, violence interruption, whatever the hell that is, and community institutions. Some of those programs might in fact be useful. Some may deserve more funding. Some calls now handled by armed officers may be handled better by another kind of responder. But again, that should be a community decision. None of that answers the final question: who responds when somebody is violent, armed, predatory, or determined not to cooperate? Every society assigns someone the authority to intervene physically when persuasion fails. The abolishment of one institution does not abolish that need. It transfers the power somewhere else. So voters deserve to actually know what replaces the police in her mind, who staffs it, what authority it carries, how it is held accountable, and what happens during the actual transition. This is why the Wisconsin result matters. A movement holding these positions did not remain confined to an academic seminar or an activist convention or to, a faculty lounge. Its candidate came within 3,211 votes of a major party nomination for governor. And then the even scarier part about all that is, again, remember, the guy who they propped up to beat her basically turned into her, sans the dress and sans the argument about data centers. But then we get to the foreign policy portion of the interview, and that reveals the same gap between morally forceful language and the difficult details of governing. Romer was asked about Israel and the Palestinians. The discussion moved to the DSA's support for a one-state outcome and to the history of negotiations, including Camp David. And this should be clip 4 that we're getting queued up right now as soon as I get to the right place.
Does taking that position, however principled, distract from DSA policies that might really succeed or be more urgent?
I don't think so. I think taking principled positions tells people that you're principled. And I think we see voters really responding to that. And we see people saying, oh, you're actually thinking about the systems. Even Thomas Jefferson, for all of his heinous problems, I think he was writing letters to James Madison where he talked about we need a new constitution every 19 years because he did some calculation in his head that that is when a generation changes over. And he said people should not be haunted by these rules set for them by previous generations. So this is not actually, it's not a new concept to say like, hey, wait a second, why are we doing this thing this way?
Give me the dynamics within DSA. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Zoran Mamdani, too, have been criticized by people in DSA for moderating various positions. AOC took advice from Nancy Pelosi. Mamdani retained the New York City police commissioner from the previous administration.
Yep. So what I think often on the outside looks like infighting or mess, we just call it democracy. We think it's good. We're always happy to pick apart anything, ruthless critique of all that exists, to use a Marxist phrase.
You've quoted Marx now a few times in our conversation.
I did quote Thomas Jefferson too. So
not happily, not without ambivalence.
Well, I was ruthlessly critiquing him for all that exists.
You think you're going to get far by quoting Marxist theory in this country, or do you think that kind of Cold War?
Oh no, trust me, she thinks they're going to get really far by quoting Marx, because they are getting really far by quoting Marx. That should terrify all of you. And I don't know why this is suddenly being so weird. Hang on. Oh, I know what happened. I hit a button and didn't mean to. That was weird. That was very, very weird. All right. But yeah, no. She thinks she's going to get very far by quoting Marx because a lot of the younger people think that communism is the way to go. Now, I think somehow my clips got out of order because I think that was actually the fifth one. Let me take a look here. Hang on. Yeah, I think that may have been the fifth clip. So we'll get into that part in a second. But so here's the thing about the one state outcome. So they don't want a two-state solution for Israel and Palestine. Remember that whole from the river to the seas things? Yeah, that thing. So a one-state outcome is not a small adjustment to the existing peace process. It raises fundamental questions about national self-determination, security, citizenship, political control, and the future of Israel as a Jewish state. When Remnick invokes Camp David, he is pointing to the fact that his conflict has a history. Proposals have been made, negotiations have failed, leaders on every side have made choices, and civilians have paid the price. A serious governing position must contend with that history. It must explain not merely the desired moral destination, but the means of getting there, the parties who must consent, the security arrangements required, and the consequences when armed actors reject the settlement. The pattern across these clips is consistent. On electoral politics, the movement has a strategy. On taxation, it has a slogan, but few specifics in the interview. On policing, it states a radical destination, but leaves replacing the institution largely undefined. On the Middle East, it advances an outcome without adequately resolving the historical, political, and security barriers that stand between the present and that outcome. That doesn't mean every person attracted to the DSA has studied or endorsed every consequence of every plank. Many voters hear a message about affordability, wages, healthcare, rent, or frustration with political elites, and to them, those concerns are very real. But the people asking for power are responsible for the complete agenda, not only the most popular entry point. We talked about this a little bit last night on BZ's show when we talked about the passage of the permanent income tax through constitutional amendment. When the left and even some Republicans of the day convinced people this was a good idea, they used much the same language that is used today. This is a tax that is not going to impact you. Back then, I believe the numbers they threw around was a 2% tax on the top 1% of America. However, when the amendment was put together, none of the language that said you aren't going to ever have to pay this was ever in there. So what this was a foot into the door to be able to turn you over and shake your pockets whenever you wanted to. And in the 70s, we were pretty much there. If you added up in almost every state, the city, the state, the local, the federal, and all the different taxes, our top tax rates were anywhere between 75 and 80%. Until Reagan came in and said, no, this is not how this is supposed to work. And the left hated him for it because it put more money back in everybody's pockets. And like it or not, because the left keeps telling you that trickle-down economics don't work, they do. They actually do, because what happens is the people that generate jobs or create jobs and generate wealth are able to hire more people. We saw this in Trump 1.0. More people were hired. Wages were going up on their own, not artificially being raised by the government. But the problem with all of this is these people don't care about you. And I'm going to say this again. Neither side honestly gives a damn about you or me. The only person who for the short term seemed like they did was Donald Trump. And I really don't understand what's going on with him lately. I really don't, especially when it comes to things like Iran, especially when it comes to J.D. Vance mirroring some of the same public ownership stuff that Hassan Piker has been talking about, at least, but maybe to a lesser degree. I mean, because Hassan Piker thinks Bernie Sanders didn't go far enough with his idea to scoop up 50% of the stock of AI companies and turn it over to the government. But even J.D. Vance is starting to say things like this. If there is, and I contend that, again, this is where we are, there's almost no daylight between the two parties. What the hell are we doing? Where did our freedoms go? I talked about this on the show with BZ again last night. If you want to look at who's free in this country, look at the immigrants. They get all the stuff. They get told they can have everything. Look at the Islamists. They're allowed to pray in the streets. They're allowed to have Muslim call to prayer blaring from sunup to sundown 5 times a day. They have wash stations being installed in airports for their feet. They're being called to join into political movements within certain cities and towns and states. Could you imagine if somebody put out an ad that said seeking Christian town council members? Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Because I know how that would work. So, but that's why interviews like this one matter. The most effective response to a sweeping ideology isn't hysteria, it's specificity. What do you mean? How would it work? Who pays for it? Who are you going to use to enforce it? What replaces the institution you abolished? What happens when the plan encounters resistance, scarcity, violence, or unintended consequences? Those questions do not suppress democracy, they make democratic consent possible. Now bring it back to Wisconsin. Hello, Wisconsin. Francesca Hong lost. David Crowley won. That is the result. The warning is contained in the margin. An openly Democratic Socialist candidate came within 3,211 votes of winning a gubernatorial primary in a swing state. The movement behind her describes its method as electoral guerrilla insurgency. Its national leadership continues to advocate for transformative changes to taxation, policing, foreign policy, and governing institutions. Everyone should be concerned enough to examine those ideas carefully before the next candidate arrives with better discipline. And guess what? It's already too late because they already found one with fewer liabilities and the same basic destination in Crowley, because again, the only policy they differ on was about the data centers. So this brings us into what was supposed to be hour 2, but as usual, my notes are a little too extensive because the DSA is not the only part of the left talking about remaking institutions. Because guess what? Talked about this earlier. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries, for now, if he can keep his job, says dramatic Supreme Court reform is necessary and that Democrats should not take options off the table. Megan Romer also has been explicit about another institution that the DSA wants to abolish entirely, and that again is the United States Senate. So as we continue to go through this, we will separate fact from conflation in 2 election law victories, look at the latest collapse of a 2020 alternate elector prosecution, and examine the federal allegations now surrounding the Southern Poverty Law Center and the questions being asked about Jocelyn Benson's past role there. Different stories, one common question. When political movements say existing institutions stand in the way, what exactly do they intend to build in their place? We're going to get into that right now because we don't have time to take the break anyway, and we're already blown past everything anyway already. So hang on just a second. I got to find my notes here. All right. So earlier in the program, we examined a political movement that openly describes its strategy again as an electoral guerrilla insurgency. However, the kids seem to think it's awesome. We heard the national co-chair of the Democratic Socialist of America struggle to translate tax the hell out of millionaires into an actual tax policy. We heard her explain that defund the police. We heard her explain that the ultimate goal of defunding the police is reducing police funding to 0, even though she tried to walk that back in the middle of that clip, but then it came right back around to it. We heard her endorse a one-state outcome for Israel and Palestine before acknowledging that she could not discuss the specifics of one of the most important modern attempts to negotiate that conflict. And we kept returning to Wisconsin, where a Democratic socialist with significant political liabilities came within 0.4 of 1 percentage point of capturing a gubernatorial nomination. Hour 2, which is officially supposed to be starting now, but we're already 90 minutes in, is going to begin with another part of the DSA program, abolishing the United States Senate. But before we hear Megan Romer explain that position, we need to look at what House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries said about another American institution, aka the Supreme Court. Jeffries appeared Thursday at a journalism conference in Atlanta and was asked about the future of the court. His answer was not especially subtle. And I quote, "In my view, dramatic Supreme Court reform is in fact necessary." I say again, dramatic reform. Jeffries said he would leave the details to Democrats on the House Judiciary Committee, led by Jamie Raskin, if Democrats win the majority. Then he added that there are a variety of options on the table and that Democrats cannot foreclose any single one of them. Now, there is a legitimate debate about ethics rules, financial disclosures, recusal standards, and transparency at the Supreme Court. No public institution should be immune from scrutiny merely because its members wear robes. But when a congressional leader says dramatic reform is necessary and refuses to take any option off the table, voters have every right to ask whether court expansion is among those options. The Constitution does not fix the number of justices at 9. Congress set the number by statute, and it has changed in American history. But the court has had 9 justices since 1869. And Franklin Roosevelt's 1937 court packing plan failed because even many members of his own party recognized the dangers of changing the size of the court to obtain more favorable outcomes. That is the heart of the issue here. Reform can mean improving an institution's rules. Court packing means changing the institution's composition because you dislike its overall trend of decisions. Those are not the same thing. To borrow Ronald Reagan's old line, some of the most alarming words in politics may now be, "We're from Congress and we're here to reform the court." I know it's a paraphrase, but it fits. That is the Reagan version, and the joke lands because everybody understands the danger hidden inside the word reform. If the proposal is an enforceable ethics code, present it. If the proposal is term limits, explain the constitutional mechanism to set them. If the proposal is jurisdiction stripping, explain the scope and the precedent. If the proposal is adding seats until the ideological balance changes, call it what it is. The public deserves specifics before an election, not after one. And that's what I feel like we get with elections anymore. I feel like we're like perpetually living in the Nancy Pelosi world of you got to vote for us to find out what we're going to do for you. It's kind of where I feel like we are. I don't like it, but it's kind of where I feel like where we are. And the public again deserves specifics. This brings us back to Megan Romer because the DSA is much more direct about another institution it regards as illegitimate. David Remnick asked her about the United States Senate. Her answer was not reform the filibuster, revise the committee structure, or admit new states. She specifically said she wanted to get rid of it. That is her destination, to abolish the Senate, create a unicameral House, and expand the Congress. The argument is familiar. Wyoming and California receive the same number of senators despite enormous differences in population. Small states exercise power disproportionate to their population. The chamber can frustrate majoritarian policy. And all of that is true, but it's also by design. The Senate was not created as a second House of Representatives. That's why I keep telling you the 17th Amendment was a terrible idea. It was designed to represent the states as political units within a federal republic. The problem is that isn't the case anymore because now that they are elected by popular vote within the states, they're not accountable to the state legislature or the governor really anymore. So this goes back to something I said in the beginning of the program. One of the scariest things, because it's half true, is when the DSA looks you in the eye and the members of the DSA and their NPC look you in the eye and say that the Senate is now antiquated or antithetical. Because they're not wrong. It is not the voice of the states anymore. It was created to be a counterbalance from the people for the states, so the states had a say in how they were being treated by the federal government. That's why there were 2 separate branches of our Congress. One, the House, the voice of the people, which is why it's based on population. The other, 2 appointed members sent by the states and the state legislature and the governor, so that the people in charge of each individual state felt like they had a voice there as well. And we screwed it up. I say we, I wasn't alive yet, but we screwed it up when they passed the 17th Amendment. And that's the truth of it. You can dislike the original arrangement. You can say that the 17th Amendment was a good idea because it made them accountable to we the people again, but you're wrong. You can argue that it's outdated, and it kind of is now because of the 17th Amendment, but abolishing the Senate is not a normal policy adjustment. It would require rewriting one of the central bargains of the constitutional system. Now, let's not forget, this was also the same person who quoted a Thomas Jefferson paper, which is a legitimate conversation, Thomas Jefferson had way back in the day. Then he said, and this is why I laugh my ass off every time I hear anybody say, well, our separation of church and state doctrine actually comes from letters that were written by Thomas Jefferson because blah, blah. Dude, Thomas Jefferson was a founding father, but he was semi-insane if you read some of his papers. You heard her talk about it in one of the clips I played earlier. His grand idea was that the Constitution should be rewritten every generation because there was no reason for a new generation to be being held captive to the ideas of a previous generation. I know we like to put all of our founding fathers on pedestals and talk about how awesome they are, and I'm not saying Thomas Jefferson was not a genius of his day, but there is a fine line between genius and insanity, and Thomas Jefferson was hopscotching both sides of that bitch. I'm just saying. So there's also an additional obstacle here that advocates rarely mention. Article 5 says no state may be deprived of equal suffrage in the Senate without that state's consent. Problem is, as soon as they passed the 17th Amendment, that kind of went away because they don't have equal suffrage anymore. So the states whose power would be eliminated would have to agree to eliminate it. But they kind of already did when they passed the 17th Amendment. So I'm just saying, that's not necessarily a procedural speed bump, but the process has already been begun. Because the Constitution protecting the Constitution is protecting the federal structure from, this whole thing is kind of being undone as we speak and has been already. The court and the Senate are different institutions, but the political instinct connecting these proposals is worth noticing. When an institution produces outcomes the movement dislikes, the institution itself becomes the problem. The response is no longer persuasion, coalition building, or winning under the existing rules. The response becomes changing the rules, changing the membership, changing the structure, or abolishing the institution altogether. That's why today's Wisconsin result matters beyond a Wisconsin movement that came within 3,211 votes of a gubernatorial nomination of a capital S socialist. Problem is, again, if you look at the guy that supposedly saved the left, there was really only one policy difference between the two. So we're not only debating tax rates or spending levels, it's national leaders, and we're questioning whether major constitutional institutions should continue to exist in their present form. So now, as we get through this real quick, I guess we're going to take the final break real quick, and then when we come back, we're going to turn from proposals to change institutions to a 2-court ruling involving election law. And that will probably be about where we ended for today. Like I said, I had way too many notes again, but I'd rather be over-prepared than under-prepared. My name is Rick Robinson. This is my show. We'll be right back, and this is our law enforcement tribute break. Stay tuned.
In, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about they're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood, when everything falls. They don't ask why, they just answer the call, always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens faded, before the scene is clear. Someone's already making sense of the moment, keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. This is service, this is sacrifice, this is how lives are saved. No spotlight, no applause, just showing up again and again. They're holding the line when the world goes dark. When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all. For those who run and for those who hold steady, for those who stand in the gap.
And welcome back into the final segment of the It's Finally Friday edition of the Rick Robinson Show. Don't forget, after a brief reset and sound check that some of you will be having to put up with while we change over, the weekend news roundup will be starting shortly after this one ends. All right, so I'm going to put this on the screen instead of reading it. But yeah. So. And tell them they're most welcome, sir. All right. So anyway, let's try to get through as many of the last 42 points that I have. Because, and BZ made a great point. The Muslims and the DSA have a lot in common. They're basically wanting to eliminate, remove, and or destroy everything that makes America America. And for some reason, we seem to be willing to be letting them do that. And by we, I mean the people that we keep sending to DC that tell us that they're not going to let that happen. And then they keep doing it anyway. So anyway. So I told you when we came back, we were going to try to get through these rulings. So now we're going to turn from proposals again to the changes of institutions to our two court rulings that recently came down involving election law. And here we need to be precise because two cases are not the same. And neither one proves every claim made under the broad banner of election integrity. The first ruling came from the Fifth Circuit and concerned provisions of the Texas 2021 election law. The appellate panel restored 9 challenged provisions, including mail-in ballot identification and voter assistance rules, but much of the decision turned on standing. That means the court largely concluded the organizations challenging the provisions had not shown the legally required injury needed to pursue those claims. It did not issue a sweeping factual declaration that every challenge provision is wise, perfect, or immune from every future lawsuit. Judge Andrew Oldham wrote for a unanimous panel that the challengers had not shown their members faced a substantial risk of future harm from the mail-in ballot identification requirements. The decision also noted that mail-in ballot rejection rates associated with identification rules had fallen substantially from roughly 11 or 12% to 2.7%. One claim did reach the merits. The court held that local prosecutors enforce election crime but do not themselves provide voting services, so they could not be held liable under the disability statutes on that particular theory. That's the first case. The second came from the Minnesota Supreme Court and involved witness information on absentee ballots returned by third parties. Minnesota actually permits legally third-party ballot collection under state law. Talk about insanity. The question was whether election officials could verify witness signatures and reject ballots that failed the legal requirements. The state court upheld the verification process. Again, narrow facts. Election officials may check whether legally required witness information is valid. That is not the same case as Texas's voter identification provisions, and it does not create a national rule for every absentee ballot dispute, but I kind of wish that it did. What connects the decisions is more modest and more defensible. States may enforce election safeguards when those safeguards comply with the law, and challengers still must prove standing and satisfy the elements of their claims. That is not a declaration that every election concern is fraud. It's also not proof that every challenged law is in fact constitutional. It's not permission for officials to invent requirements after ballots are cast. It is the ordinary principle that rules adopted through the legal process may be enforced unless a proper plaintiff proves a legal reason they shouldn't or cannot be. This is where Reagan's other famous formulation fits better than the slogans on either side. Trust, but verify. Trust voters to make their choices. Verify identity where the law requires it. Verify witness information where the law requires it. Preserve the paper record. Make the count transparent. Correct mistakes openly, and when litigation comes, decide the actual legal question presented rather than pretending every ruling settles the entire national argument. That is how public confidence is not only built, but restored. So we're also going to continue looking at rules governing current elections that we just went over to prosecutions arising from the 2020 election, because a Nevada judge actually recently dismissed charges against 6 Republican alternate electors, concluding prosecutors had not presented sufficient evidence of fraudulent intent. The Attorney General says the state will appeal. So we're also going to be looking real quick into a different federal crime case involving the Southern Poverty Law Center and former Intelligence Project Director Heidi Birch. There are serious allegations in that indictment. There are also serious limits on what allegations establish about the Michigan Secretary of State, Jocelyn Benson, who previously served on the SPLC board. Facts first, association second, conclusions only when the evidence support them. So, again, one of the first stories we're going to be looking at in this segment as we come to the end of the show is the Nevada 2020 alternate elector case. 6 Republicans signed a certificate stating Donald Trump had won Nevada in 2020. They gathered outside the state legislature in December of that year and carried out the signing openly. The defendants included State Republican Party Chair Michael McDonald and former Clark County Republican Party Chair Jesse Law. Nevada Judge Mary Kay Holthus dismissed the case after concluding the state had not established a reasonable basis to infer fraudulent intent. Her reasoning focused in part on the defendant's conduct. They did not conceal the signing. They announced what they were doing and why. The certificate could not legally be accepted or recorded as the state's official electoral vote without the necessary governmental action. The judge wrote that the defendant's open conduct weighed against an inference that they were secretly attempting to induce the government to treat the document as genuine. That is a ruling about the evidence of intent in this prosecution. It is not a judicial declaration that the certificate was accurate. Trump, according to the records, did not win Nevada's certified popular vote in 2020. Notice I said the certified vote. It is also not a ruling that any group may sign an official-looking document without legal consequences. It's also not necessarily the final word. Nevada Attorney General Aaron Ford has said his office will appeal. The clean statement is this: the trial judge dismissed the charges because the prosecution had not shown sufficient evidence from which fraudulent intent could reasonably be inferred. That matters because intent is not decorative language in a criminal statute. It is an element the government must prove. People can regard the alternate elector effort as reckless, deceptive, even constitutionally dangerous, or politically indefensible. None of those judgments relieves prosecutors from the burden to prove the charged crime against each defendant. Nevada is not the only state where these prosecutions have encountered difficulty. In Michigan, charges against 15 Republican electors were dismissed in 2025 after a judge found insufficient evidence that the defendants acted with fraudulent intent. Georgia's broader election case was disrupted after District Attorney Fannie Willis, big fat Fannie, was disqualified, and the principal case later collapsed when the remaining charges were dropped. Some lower-level defendants had entered guilty pleas even before that happened. Arizona's prosecution ran into procedural problems, and Attorney General Chris Mays said she intended to return the matter to a new grand jury. Wisconsin's case against 3 Trump campaign advisors and attorneys remained pending at the time of the reporting we reviewed. Those cases involved different statutes, different defendants, documents, procedures, and evidence. We should not pretend one dismissal automatically decides all of them, but it doesn't necessarily hurt either, because the pattern does support a legitimate criticism. Years after the 2020 election, prosecutors have struggled to convert the broad political narrative surrounding alternate electors into final criminal convictions against the core groups in these states' cases. That deserves scrutiny, regardless of the party affiliation of the prosecutors. But I'm going to say this again: the left has tried to slate alternate electors pretty much any time a Republican has won since the dawn of time, or the dawn of the invention of the Republican Party, I guess I should say. The state does not get a reduced burden of proof because the defendants are unpopular. And the defense does not get immunity because a prosecutor is a Democrat. Although, wouldn't that technically mean they were retarded and probably shouldn't be practicing law in the first place? Oh, wait, did I say that out loud? My bad. The evidence and the law decide the case. Now, let's try to get through this SPLC stuff real quick. We talked about this a little bit last night, so it's kind of a rehash for those of you that listen, but we're going to go through it anyway. So this is where the allegations are both sensational and rather serious. The Justice Department has charged the SPLC, otherwise known as the Southern Poverty Law Center, and individuals associated with it in a federal fraud case. A second superseding indictment added former SPLC Intelligence Project Director Heidi Birch, or Barrich, I don't know, I'm just going to say Birch, as a defendant. The government alleges that more than $4 million was paid between 2007 and 2023 to people associated with violent extremist groups in exchange for information and work product. I'm going to say that again, for information and work product. Prosecutors allege that financial institutions and donors were deceived about the nature of and handling of those payments. Birch is accused of overseeing payments to an extremist informant with whom she also allegedly had a romantic relationship, shared a residence with at the time, and also shared joint financial accounts. As of now, those are only allegations in an indictment, which is why I keep having to say she's been accused of and allegedly and all those other legal words that keep me from getting myself into trouble. They are not yet findings of guilt. The defendants are entitled to the presumption of innocence, and the government must prove its case beyond a reasonable doubt. But if the allegations are proven, they would expose a profound contradiction inside an organization that built much of its public authority by identifying and condemning extremist groups. You know, like grandmas praying in front of abortion clinics. Yeah, those extremists. And Catholics. Don't forget the extreme Catholics. And I'm not a fan of Catholicism either, but still. Paying informants is not necessarily automatically illegal. Law enforcement agencies and investigative organizations sometimes compensate sources. The legal questions, as far as I'm concerned, have more to do with how the payments were represented, whether money was diverted or concealed, whether banks and donors received false information, and whether the charged defendants acted with criminal intent. And this is my favorite one. Should a group that is not law enforcement have the right and or the ability to have paid informants? But everything that I said before that is the federal case. That last part is just kind of my question, in my opinion. So now comes the political association involving Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson. Benson volunteered with the SPLC earlier in her career and later served as an unpaid member of its board from 2014 to 2018 while she was dean of Wayne State University Law School. She has described the board role as mostly ceremonial and has emphasized her civil rights work investigating white supremacist and neo-Nazi organizations. Birch alleged conduct overlaps part of the period when Benson served on the board. That overlap creates what some would say are fair questions. What information actually reached the board? What oversight duties did directors have? Were payments to informants disclosed in general or in detail? Did the board review financial controls, conflicts of interest, or risks involving confidential sources? Those are legitimate questions for a candidate for governor who has cited her SPLC work as part of her public biography. But the evidence described in the reporting we reviewed does not establish that Benson knew of the alleged fraud, participated in it, approved it, or attempted to conceal it. Board service is an association and an oversight responsibility is not by itself proof of criminal knowledge. That distinction is especially important for now because, again, we're talking about allegations, not proof of guilt or fraud. Some political coverage moves too quickly from served on the board to must have known. That's because that's what they do to us, but that's beside the point. Maybe additional evidence will show what she knew. Maybe board minutes, audit records, emails, or testimony will clarify the extent of her role. Until then, the most accurate formulation is this, and that is her prior board service warrants questions, not conclusions unsupported by the evidence. The same rule applies to the rhetoric surrounding the indictment. The shorthand that the SPLC funded Nazis while being politically explosive, but it also is a bit obscure, and it can obscure the relevant distinction between paying informants for access and unlawfully deceiving donors or banks about those payments. And again, this is all stuff that I have to say thanks to the attorneys, because these are just allegations. But I'm going to say this again. We're talking about millions of dollars. Not, hey, thank you for giving us information. Here, go get yourself a nice dinner. No, millions of dollars. Living with someone. Sharing a home with them. Bank accounts in common. So, yes, it's only an inference, but it's a huge damn inference. The government's allegations are serious enough without exaggeration, though, because again, all of that other stuff I just talked about. If the SPLC knowingly misrepresented millions of dollars in payments, concealed conflicts, or allowed insiders to profit, accountability should follow. Will it? Probably not, but it should. If prosecutors cannot prove those claims, the defendant should not be convicted by headline. That is not softness. That is the standard we're supposed to defend. And it connects every story that we've talked about so far today. Hakeem Jeffries says dramatic Supreme Court reform is necessary, but leaves the options undefined. The DSA says abolish the Senate and get rid of the police because institutions frustrate us, and its theory of democratic representation is different than ours. Texas and Minnesota show courts resolving specific election law disputes through standing, statutory duties, and state law requirements. Nevada shows a criminal prosecution failing, at least for now, because the judge found the state had not adequately established fraudulent intent. The SPLC case shows a federal indictment making grave allegations that still must be proven. In every instance, the discipline is the same. Define the proposal, identify the legal standard, separate allegation from evidence, separate association from participation, separate a narrow ruling from a sweeping political claim, and do not destroy the rules merely because the rules have produced an outcome you dislike. That last point is the entire spine of today's show. a socialist candidate nearly won a gubernatorial primary in a swing state. Remember that thing they said probably wouldn't happen? Nearly did. The movement backing her calls its political strategy an electoral guerrilla insurgency and advocates abolishing the Senate. The leader of the House Democrats says dramatic Supreme Court reform is necessary and refuses to rule out any of the available options, including nuking it. Election officials in Milwaukee made another preventable mistake. Even though the reporting we have does not establish that votes were altered, it still doesn't look very good when there's a giant shiny touchscreen that says push this button to export this, and it was the wrong button. Courts upheld some election safeguards, but through different cases and for different legal reasoning. A judge dismissed an alternate elector prosecution because intent had not been sufficiently shown. Federal prosecutors have accused the SPLC and former officials of serious financial crimes, while the public evidence does not yet establish that Jocelyn Benson knew of or participated in the alleged misconduct. These are not one story. There's also not a conspiracy. They do share one civic demand. Institutions must earn trust by following rules that are clear, lawful, and applied consistently and with consistency. In a minute, I'll remember how to talk. Political movements must tell voters what they intend to build before voters give them the power to tear anything down. We don't do that very well, though. Election officials must treat competence as part of election integrity. Don't do that very well anymore either. Prosecutors must prove every element of the crimes they charge, and the rest of us must resist temptation to turn every fact into confirmation of whatever we already believed. That is harder than posting a headline. It is also how a free country is supposed to govern itself. That will do it for today's edition of the Rick Robinson Show. We had to do an abbreviated bit for the last segment. We got through the gist of the notes. And I want to thank you guys for spending your Friday with me. Have a safe weekend. Keep asking questions. And remember, the loudest claim is not always the strongest fact. Hang out for the Weekend News Roundup here in a little bit. And let's not forget, after today, can we just forget Luigi Mangione exists? He pled guilty. Put him under the jail and move on. My name's Rick Robinson. This has been my show. I'll see you on Monday and hopefully here in a little bit on the Weekend News Roundup. Stay tuned. Say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
Rick's calling through with no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand. DC to Tulsa, he's calling it.
Helps if I hit the right buttons in the right order. Okay, everybody should be on with me now. Let's get a sound check real quick. Maybe.
Very tasty. 1, 2,
There we go.
3. Tasty, tasty.
Testing 1, 2, 3. How do I sound?
Sound good over here.
All right. For the last 2 days, the palm of my left hand has been itching, and I don't know if it's a Polish thing, a German thing, a Milwaukee thing, but I was always taught. I was always taught that meant you were going to get money, and the way it's itching right now.
God bless you, then. Cool.
Yeah, I was always taught that meant you were going to get money, and if that's the case, I should check my lottery tickets again. I didn't win the Powerball. Someone in Illinois won the $1 billion jackpot.
Yeah, it's funny. I almost bought a ticket for that one because I was like, you know what? Enough stuff's gone right for me lately. I should buy a ticket. And then I didn't. And then somebody in another small state smallish state actually won. Because normally it's like the coast that win them.
Right. And this is the one where now you can get it in Europe too, I guess. So that it was even in America this time.
Odds plummeted magnificently.
I know. That's why I'm going to go play it this weekend, because fewer people are going to play it now that it's $20 million. But I will tell you right now, one lump sum, you probably walk away with 11 after taxes and everything. I can make that work for the rest of my life. I'll be fine. I don't need $1 billion. So
probably closer to about 9 actually. Let me step out and grab my nose spray real quick so I don't snuffle up against all the way through the next hour or so. I'll be right back.
All right.
Talk amongst yourselves for a second, then we'll get started.
Let me turn that down. I don't know why my hair looks so bad this morning, but whatever.
Let me step out and go get my notes. They're probably 3 inches thick.
Oh God, okay.
Notes.
I didn't even do notes today. I was too busy.
Badgers.
I finished my last piece about 6 minutes before I had to log on, so.
Okay. And the tally is?
It's not as much this week. Today was 18 pieces.
You wound me. I'm wounded.
I know. I just did not have the energy. This after Tuesday, I was just like, I'm out. I'm done.
So what was so hellacious about Tuesday?
Just it was a long day. It was a ton of articles. It was the primary day, so I went to the Tom Tiffany party in Heartland, which is about 45 minutes from home. I honestly think he didn't come out and speak until late. I think they were waiting. I think we all thought it was going to be a blowout. Hong was going to, they were going to call it by 9 o'clock. He would be out. Hong was the opponent. One done, wham, bam. And when they weren't calling it, and it kept getting closer and closer, I think he was waiting because he was there early. I saw a video of him. The kid next to me pulled up a reel of him walking into the event hall, but we didn't see him until later. He must have been in a back room. And then he came out and talked, and then they kind of ushered us out because they were supposed to end or close the facility a half hour before I even left. And I wasn't the last one there by any stretch. And I think we broke their Wi-Fi because I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work toward the end. So by the time I got home, sat up and was watching the returns, Milwaukee's screw up, which Rick was just talking about again. I said 1:30, I'm done. If they don't call the race by 1:30, I will update the post, say the race hasn't been called. We will update in the morning. And then I got to get at least a couple hours of sleep because my alarm goes off at 5:30. Well, 1:26 is when they called it for Crowley. So then I was like, fine, I can tap out, updated the post, went to bed, didn't fall asleep till after 3. I was up when I saw that Hong had conceded, but I didn't update the post because I was just done. So I went 32 hours on 2 hours of sleep.
The hate and discontent of being a political reporter.
Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't trade it for the world. I love it. It's just, I'm also getting too old for this shit.
It's like me and CHP. When I was working in California, I never felt sorry for CHP because except for a few exceptions, their life was a cush. The only time I felt semi sorry for them is when they'd have to stand out on a vehicle stop in the absolute pouring rain.
Mm-hmm.
And other than that, don't get me wrong. When I worked for Santa Cruz Sheriff, when I had my little shooting and killed the piece of shit that I can say freely now because I don't feel guilty at all. CHP and Santa Cruz Sheriff had, it was hate and discontent. Oh my God. To the point where CHP wouldn't take our deuces, drunk drivers. And so everybody had to be SREs and the DREs, drug recognition experts, and do our own FSTs, all that kind of stuff. In Sacramento, dude, CHP was stellar. They were great. I would go on a call, and in my district, I had probably 3 officers who, if I went on a call, and they were listening to their scanners. If I went on a call by myself, invariably one of them would show up. We backed each other like crazy. They were great, great, great people, but it just depends.
Yeah.
What the hell? What the hell happened? Shit. Oofta.
I know.
So other than that, how are you doing? Who am I talking about? You. How are you?
I'm all right. Trying to figure out.
All right.
The kids are good. The older 2 went to the state fair yesterday. because we have every end of July, beginning of August, for 11 days they have the state fair, which used to be right where my mom lived before the bitchy landlord threw her out. So we would park there and walk to the fair. So trying to figure out a way to come up with a little bit of money to take Henry tomorrow morning, because I like to go for as long as I can remember. We'd go early and we'd go to the Wisconsin Products Pavilion, and we'd have an omelet, because this little family ran this omelet stand, and you would get an omelet. It was like $3. Even the last time I went, I think I paid $4.50 for a 4-egg omelet with ham, cheese, onions, mushrooms, whatever you wanted in it. Well, last year we went. Oh God, it was so good. Last year we went and the omelet stand was gone. And it was gone. It was gone because the lady retired. She was 81 years old and she finally decided she'd had enough and retired. So I don't have breakfast at the fair anymore, but I said, we'll get up early. We'll walk around for a little bit. We'll grab one meal. I'm torn about whether or not I'm going to go on the giant slide. He will, but I'm talking like 3-4 stories up. You gotta walk up and you gotta ride down. And I hate heights with a pat. Like, even talking about it, I can feel my heart starting to do this, one of these things. And then do the Ferris wheel, go home, be out of there by noon, because I won't take him tonight because the crowds will be bad. The Midway, I don't allow them to go in the Midway at all, because everybody from the inner city goes to the Midway, and that comes with all the problems that being from the inner city implies. So we will see. I got to figure that out.
That's just like the state fair in California.
Yeah. Yeah.
No difference.
Yeah.
Shithole thugs be shithole thugging.
So that maybe tomorrow. And then I've got to finish up. I've got a couple other little craft projects I got to do, because on the 19th of September, I've got a craft fair to try to sell those ornaments. I got to sell them because I got a $1,300 installment payment due next month.
Stop. You have to stop using pejoratives. They're called Asians, all right? They're called Asians. Stop.
I didn't say Orientals. I said ornaments. But yes, I will.
I know what you meant. It's a euphemism. Jeez, pizza.
Stop talking about the ornamentals, Amy.
Ornamentals. Yeah, no, I've got a $1,300 installment for.
I'm not smiling.
Italy next month. So.
All right. I'm officially back. We're ready to go.
Yeah. What if this has been live for the past 9 minutes and Rick didn't tell us?
You've been live the whole time, guys.
That's what I was thinking.
Remember, I don't cut this feed. I just trim it later for the podcast.
All right. Well, cool. Oh God. All right.
I mean, each of you should see the little red live button at the top.
I see the red live button. I said nothing I won't say publicly. So.
All right,
by the way,
here we go.
I absolutely got to jam at slightly before 1. The top of the hour. Let me say that.
All right, here we go. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
And welcome into the Weekend News Roundup. Better late than never edition, because, yeah, it's been a day. It's been a day. But in my defense, I was up till midnight-ish hanging out with these two again. Because apparently we like to do this a lot together. Anyway, so I'm joined by most of my usual cohorts. I have it on good authority. Brad might actually be back next week. We shall see. However, we do have just below me the bloviated Zeppelin. And then, of course, Amy. So, as usual, we're going to go ladies first and then pass to BZ. How are things with you since we last spoke about 13 hours ago?
They're good.
Amy?
They're good. Sleep is lacking, but they're good. Today was a good day. I was telling BZ earlier, State Fair is this week. It wraps up tomorrow. So I'm thinking of taking my youngest, going to look at the chickens and the goats and eat food that is absolutely awful for you. This year, the new food item, the big food item is deep fried ranch dressing.
What?
Yeah, I know. I was waiting. I have no idea how this. I have no idea how this works.
Okay.
I saw a video of David Crowley eating some, and his review was, "I hate how much I like this." So I'm gonna have to try it. And then you get a cream puff. And I always get an ear of corn. My favorite thing at the fair, it's so stupid and lame, is the ear of roasted corn. There is nothing like a fresh ear of corn, hot off the roaster, with some butter and some salt.
Butter and salt. Hey, yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, the whole deep fried ranch thing sounds a little weird, but I can think of a way that it might be acceptable.
I try.
So you take the whole, Wisconsin being famous for cheese thing, and you set up a cheese stick with ranch in the middle, and then deep fry that, and then that would probably be awesome. But I don't know how the heck you would deep fry just ranch though. But then again, I wasn't sure how deep fried Oreos would work either, and those are absolutely amazing.
Oh, so. They sell those there too. They have funnel cakes, they have elephant ears, they have you name it, they've got it, and giant buckets of lemonade. And then of course it's Wisconsin, so alcohol is everywhere.
Nice.
Elephant ears, not familiar with that. What are elephant ears? Come on, besides the obvious, but I mean, what are they?
Here they're a type of fried donut, and sometimes they're just plain like fried donuts. Sometimes they're cinnamon and sugar powdered, like just big fried donut, almost like a funnel cake, but a little less crispy and a little chewier. And sometimes they've got strawberry, raspberry jam in the middle, whatever kind of fillings. They can come with chocolate chips on the top. Those, I'm more of a, if I'm going to have something sweet, I'm going to save it for the cream puff thing. Because the cream puffs are like, the cream puff pavilion is the busiest building in the State Fair Park. So, yeah. And it's homemade whipped cream, homemade, it's not bread, but like the dough part is homemade, just delicious. Not cheap, but really, really good.
Ooh, beer nuts.
All right, so I saw BZ drinking his coffee substitute because he's the only cop that I know in existence that doesn't like coffee.
That's weird. It's true.
It gave me a chance to show something off. This is the mug my 6-year-old granddaughter made me for Grandfather's Day. Officially.
Nice. I see the Sasquatch, the blue Sasquatch.
I love it.
I think that was more of an ink blot test, sir, but that's okay.
Did I pass or did I fail?
Rorschach test failed. Just kidding. All right, so where do we want to start officially? Because I know BZ's on a clock, and I apologize for having to step out for a minute, but if I didn't grab some nose spray, I was going to be miserable till we were done.
Yeesh.
Yeah, no, like I said, last night I had a sneezing fit. Right now I'm kind of feeling like the sinuses are messing up. I heard you talking about Milwaukee when I hopped on and you were wrapping up your show. I guess the FBI might get involved now with
what?
The FBI might take a look at this flash drive thing, and see if there was something going on.
Yeah, I don't really. There doesn't. I mean, look, is it weird? Is it odd that they're trying to say this was human error? Because we all looked at the picture last night. Those screens were freaking huge. That button was enormous.
Yeah.
It
couldn't be bigger.
Is it something the FBI really needs to look at since it didn't really impact anything?
Well, I think that's what we don't know is there a forensic way to make sure that the votes, while they were running back and forth from central counting to the courthouse, wherever this stuff was stored, was anything changed? It's a computer. There should be a footprint. Will it change the outcome of the election? Probably not. But I think for the sake of election integrity, especially now, this is the third election in a row where Milwaukee has had problems. In 2024, voting machines were found open, and they weren't supposed to be. They were supposed to be sealed. There was an issue last year. Now I'm drawing a blank onto what it was exactly, but there was an issue last year with voting, an issue this time with voting, and to quote the great Ian Fleming, once is happenstance, twice is coincidence, and 3 times is enemy action. So the Republican, and I don't think they've got time to do this now before November, and I wish they would. State Rep Mark Krug, was asked if he would consider changing the law that would allow Milwaukee to start counting absentee ballots the Monday before Election Day. I'm hard pressed to see an issue with that because Milwaukee, like I said, Milwaukee seems to always wait until all the other counties are in, and then magically seems to deliver enough votes for whatever candidate they seem to want to win. So if Milwaukee can get a jump start on that, and the other counties, the red counties, learn to hold off on reporting until Milwaukee is in, I think the outcome of the elections might change dramatically, but that's just me.
See, let me ask the obvious question, which sadly not enough people ask, and certainly not the election boards all around the fruited plains. Well, first, happy 81st birthday to Steve Martin. Happy birthday
yes.
to you. He was born in Waco, Texas. Very few people know that. And the obvious question,
but let's not forget, he was born a poor black child.
Of course he was. With pizza, he was born with pizza in a cup in his hand, courtesy of his parents. He lived in a log cabin that he helped his father build. That's another very small factoid that people don't realize. But the obvious question on election boards is when you conclude an election, what else are you doing? You've had, I don't know, in my estimation, possibly months to prepare for this stuff. And how do you consider how do you possibly screw up so badly, not once, as you indicate, but in Ian Fleming style, consistently? How does this happen? What are you doing otherwise? Obviously, all of these people are being paid by hard-earned American taxpayer dollars. But in the meantime, absent an active election or an immediate prep for same, what the hell else are you doing throughout the rest of the year to make sure that there's something as, I don't know, stupidly called election integrity? What? Mikhail, what?
I didn't work for the election commission, but I did work for the city of Milwaukee. I can tell you there are a lot of people that don't do a hell of a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get the bell. Yay. There are a lot of people who do work hard. Like the inspectors worked their asses off, and especially the condemnation inspectors who would have to go out and go to like there was a mobile home park not far from where I live right now that was quite literally a dump. And I got to see some of these properties before we tore it down. And the path to walk through this house was as narrow as my laptop is wide. Everything else was stacks of garbage as high as I was. They pulled a gun on our inspector and threatened to kill him. One of our inspectors was actually shot and killed. I was long after I had left. It was a couple years ago, and I left in 2015. But he was shot and killed on the job in the city of Milwaukee. Another one was carjacked. But these guys went out, women went out every day and did their job to try to keep things safe. And they were awesome. But there were people who worked in the office who didn't do a damn thing all day. And for me, that existence is torturous. You guys want to know why I write 20 pieces a day? Because I could probably write 5 and be done and just, do well enough. I would lose my mind if I had nothing to do, if I wasn't busy. I need to be busy. I need to feel like I am productive. I need to feel like I am working. Even on the days when I am sick, I get up and do things because that's just how I'm wired. If there's a day where I am, happy birthday, Andrew. He said it's his 69th birthday and he's traveling. I hope it's traveling for fun.
No. Think 69 the other way.
now I look stupid. I was all happy that I thought it was your birthday because we talked about Steve Martin, and now you make me look like a fool. Shame on you, Andrew.
No, it's a running joke because Amish always says first, so he just started saying 69th to do the number and the joke at the same time. So
Okay. I'm part of a Facebook group where the big thing is you do first and then you get a cookie, not a real cookie, a cookie GIF in the reply. And if you're second, you get a steak GIF, and I think that's the winner. I know.
baby.
I know. I would rather have a steak
why
than a
wouldn't
cookie.
first get the steak gif? Not that that's
It's
part
just
of this.
it's just the rules. It's a fun little group of very weird people. No, but now my train of thought had completely derailed. So I'm gonna turn it back over to you guys because it was an Amtrak completely gone.
Okay.
Train of thought derailed track one.
Shall we say this for the next, 10 seconds and then move on? But again, color me surprised. The leftist piece of crap in New York who shot the healthcare CEO was found guilty. I still don't quite get that, but he was found guilty. It actually did occur, like forecasted today, and that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, it scared the shit out of me because I had The Price is Right on. I watched that in the morning. I listen to it in the morning. I listen to Let's Make a Deal on The Price is Right, and then I turn it off because soap operas come on and they're awful. And all of a sudden the breaking news came in, and working in this business and just living as long as I do, I went, oh God, what horrible thing has happened now? And like the existential dread. And then it was Luigi Manioli pleaded guilty. And the thing is, there's no plea bargain. He's not getting anything in return for that. And according to the CBS reporter who was in there passing notes out because you can't have electronics, the judge determined he was competent and determined he understood that. Now the question is why. And the theory the theory that CBS came up with was if he pleads guilty to the federal charges, odds are he will go to whatever federal facility is, as opposed to Rikers if he gets brought up on these state charges. Granted, and I'm down. That's what CBS. I don't know how. I didn't get a chance to look into it. That's what CBS was saying.
Well, that's the gist of it. Because the issue is with the way New York law is written, now that he's been convicted on those charges at the federal level, the state charges have to be dropped. Because New York. So in most cases, there's a difference between double jeopardy between, local jurisdictions, county, state jurisdictions, and federal. New York doesn't have that. So he's looking at if I let this go and they nail me, then I get to go to Rikers. If I go here, there's a chance I might. I doubt it. But I think in some way, his twisted little mind thinks he's going to wind up in Club Fed with a line of women waiting for him.
See, that's the thing that I was wondering. Two things that I need to point out, because I did work for both systems, the federal and state systems. Number one, I don't think he's going to Club Fed, not with a federal murder rap behind him. I don't know. Maybe he could earn his way there.
Hang on. He didn't get charged with murder, though. They couldn't make that stick. He got what was it they hit him with federal level?
It was on
federal stalking charges with intent. I think is what they hit him with. Which is weird
and disappointing because having worked both systems, I know why in certain cases you'd want to go through a federal venue because federal rules of evidence, and I only speak with regard to the comparison of California versus, Califailure versus the federal system. Federal rules of evidence are much less stringent than at least California is. And I would certainly suspect that would be true with the state of New York as well. So they were able to get certain things in, I'm simply hypothesizing, under the federal venue than they would for the state.
I think that's possible. And I just put something in the chat I want to drop on for a minute, but I got to read something first. So keep talking because I got to look at this.
So, it's the federal rules being much looser. That's why California, probably nobody remembers, but I do because I'm that old. There was a town called East Palo Alto in Califailure that had a massive damn crime problem. And it was right in the Bay Area, right next to Palo Alto, which wasn't necessarily a thug-ridden shithole. But they decided that they were going to go and begin on the federal venue Operation Trigger Lock to go after the guns. And the reason that they decided to do that in the state of California is because the rules of evidence were, as opposed to California, much more relaxed, and they could get many more things in submitted as evidence than they could under California state evidentiary rules. Just an observation from an old fat guy, but that was a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So,
wow.
Right.
Sorry,
Did you just...
I just opened the second link you sent because I was loading the first one when you dropped the second one. Yeah, I was like, oof.
It just popped into my timeline. No, Jason.
Oh.
Do you know who Jason if you don't know who Jason Arday is, he was the University of Cambridge professor he resigned a week and a half, 2 weeks ago now, because he was
a lying sack of crap.
Yeah, he was accused of plagiarism, academic fraud, fabricating a lot of his biography. Simon & Schuster just published his book on the 11th. He was found dead today, according to the Telegraph. He was 41 years old. They found him unresponsive at an address in Battersea, South London this afternoon. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The Metropolitan Police don't believe this is suspicious and that it was just an unexpected death. His family has been notified. I'm going to probably guess this was a suicide, and they haven't said that yet, given the amount of scrutiny that he has been under. And don't get me wrong, justifiably so.
Absolutely.
And we should not. I feel tremendously sad for his family. Anytime somebody dies, it's sad.
Bingo.
But the fact that we scrutinized what he had said and done had nothing to do with this. And that's what the narrative is going to be going forward. But yeah, that popped in my timeline. Now it broke like 20 minutes ago.
Wow. Okay.
Such a waste.
So while we were going over that, I did fact check myself just to make sure. So what he actually pled guilty to today is interstate stalking resulting in death. That was count 1. Count 2, stalking through the use of interstate facilities, including a cell phone and internet, also resulting in death. So they couldn't make the murder charges stick, but they sure made sure death got in there twice.
Well, yeah, and that's the important aspect. Okay, as an adjunct to going for a direct murder charge, winner, winner, chicken dinner. Get out, never mention him again.
Mm-hmm. That's where I come down. Bury him under the prison, throw him in the Hudson. I don't care. Just be done with him, because he cannot be turned into this martyr. He cannot be turned into a political threat for other CEOs, saying, because there are people in my timeline going, this is a theory, like this is their theory that he killed Brian Thompson, and now they're going to use him as, see, if you don't get on board with our Medicare for All scheme, we're going to do the same thing to you. So.
Oh, yeah. But so here's my thing, right?
Don't fall for that, guys.
Remember when, and I don't remember whether it was the federal judge or the state judge that said that the gun couldn't be used in evidence. Now that he admitted that he was the one that printed it, I'm sure the folks in Pennsylvania or wherever they nabbed him at, they don't have that same double jeopardy rule that New York has. So I'm sure there's probably going to potentially be some unlawful carrying of a firearm charges that might wind up being brought in at some point, just to try to see how much they can stick to this dude. At least I hope so. Because, yeah, I don't like that look, I'm glad he pled guilty. I really am. Because, again, for the most part, I just want him to go away. But at the same time, I don't want him just under the jail at this point, wood chipper go Bert. Because dude did a heinous thing on video and then pulled Shaggy. Wasn't me. Yeah.
And not only that, got the backing of high-ranking politicians who said, Brian Thompson kind of had it coming, because we don't like that he does private health care. That's fucking terrifying, because there are a lot of things in this world we don't like. I'm not going to go out and shoot somebody in the back because I don't like it. Like that, the justification of denying healthcare claims as violence. Do you hear yourselves? Holy shit, guys.
Well, these are the same people that say silence is violence.
Right. What they like is not violence. What they don't like is violence. It's a very simple equation here.
Which brings me to a topic that I swore I was never going to bring up, but it's become entertaining enough that we have to talk about it. So the whole WNBA thing, which I have been trying not to touch with a 20-foot pole, has become seriously entertaining as soon as folks like Enes Kanter Freedom said, I'm going to be a chick and I'm declaring for the WNBA. Because now everybody on the left that used to say, as soon as they say you're a woman, you got to use the right pronouns. Now it's, well, are they using the hormones? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Because if they're not, then they're not really women. Really? That's not what you said 5 minutes ago. I think that's, the whole thing, because you see it on the left now too. And BZ kind of touched on this a little bit last night. But now they're calling everything that came before this election cycle woke 1. And I have a feeling that's because they're gearing up for woke 2 DSA Boogaloo. But still,
it's still woke. Hello.
I just wrote about that today. Woke is not dead. Woke is hibernating.
Oh hell no.
Hibernating.
It's not even hibernating. Just go back to see. This is what I think I said last night. I'm not sure because I had no. These people are found, which is why I love the internet. You can access most of this stuff. These people have said exactly what they mean for years, and that crap is archived if you just go look at it. Their brains haven't been rewired in that amount of time. What happens is they realize, politically speaking, like Clinton was the true politician. He knew when to change and which way the political prairie winds were blowing back and forth. Alan Ray, we get to choose who's woke. Yeah, very true. But they haven't changed, and they won't change, period. And anybody who believes that they do are morons.
Right. They know. And when they regain power, I don't know if that'll be in November, in 2028, in 2024, or 2024, 2030, 2032, whenever. This shit will come back. And it will come back like a tidal wave. And they will make sure that they do whatever it takes to never let people fight against it again. And that's why this WNBA thing is so important, because up until 2 seconds ago, guys like Tremaine Carroll and Richard Cox, who I have written about both extensively. Richard Cox is the weirdo in Virginia who walks around with children's swim schedules on his cell phone and then says, hey, I'm a woman. I'm going to go in your locker room and whip out my penis and expose myself to women and girls. Tremaine Carroll was in California in the prison system. He said he was a woman, even though he was not on hormones, not dressed like a woman, none of that. He raped not 1, not 2, but 3 innocent women before the California prison system finally charged him and removed him from the women's prison. But suddenly now Enes Kanter says, I'm a woman, and oh, well, no, you've got to have the surgery, you've got to have the hormones. William Thomas never had surgery, never had hormones. He was held up as this paragon of women's sports as he stole titles. And when Riley Gaines complained about it, what did they tell her? Train harder. They never said that to William Thomas. When he came in like 500th or whatever, they never told him, train harder.
You can't write. You can't otherwise create what I call Herculean hypocrisy. Absolutely. And, I started my Tuesday night show out with that in the carousel of amusing GURP because it's so stupid. It's so ridiculous that it deserves derision. These people are just brain damaged. They got brain damage. And there's no getting around it. And the thing that I don't understand, but I'll call them what they are, the women that are involved in this are the ones that need to be led around by the nose with their loving septum rings because they're demanding that men be superior to women. Okay, that's fine. How about we just stomp your asses because you're that stupid?
Right. They met this week to discuss what a woman is and said it could be months before they come up with an answer.
I know. Just
I could walk out in the living room and ask my son, my 13-year-old, and he could tell me what a woman is.
5-year-olds. Women are people with tits and a vajayjay. Right answer. Move along.
I mean, for anybody who's confused, we just need to have them watch the Kindergarten Cop movie again.
Seriously. I put a link in the chat to an image that sums this whole thing up perfectly. But what Cantor, and there was a couple other guys that were trying to do this too, did so well is they proved that this isn't an ideology they actually believe in. This is a political cudgel, and it's largely done because Republicans and Trump oppose it, or at least vocally oppose it. I will argue that this is a 90-10 issue for the rest of America. Normies are on the side of Sophie Cunningham. And I could walk around and survey everybody in my neighborhood, and most of them would agree with Sophie Cunningham. But because Donald Trump said something bad about trannies, because Republicans oppose having men in women's locker rooms, they have to be in favor of it, no matter how deeply it offends them, no matter how far it contradicts their past statements and ideals. They do not care. Remember, these are the people growing up. All I heard about was the patriarchy, and the patriarchy is keeping women down, and we have to fight the patriarchy. And then you can let the patriarchy into my locker room. Okay? I don't buy into the feminist definition of the patriarchy, but I do buy into holding them to their own rules. And you guys spent my entire life telling me men are the problem, the patriarchy is the problem, and then you tell me, hey, you got to let this dude in your house or your bathroom because he says he's a chick. Pick a lane.
Brain damage, leftist white chicks, and some others.
They're driving down the middle of the road. They don't ever pick lanes. And Amy, I don't know who that is. So just a reminder, you can actually share stuff from your screen too.
How can I share stuff from my screen?
You should have a plus sign at the bottom.
Okay. All right. Woohoo, I learned something new today. All right, Amy.
Yeah, let me make sure it's turned on, but it should be.
Okay.
Because I try to make sure that everybody has screen. It wasn't, but it is now. So I was wrong. But you can now.
It didn't work. Hang on. Let me pull it. Let me play with that, and then I will do that.
Giggity.
There we go. All right.
All right. So I don't know. Well, yeah. Let's. BZ's sharing things, so let's see what he wants to put on the screen. I'm terrified.
I was just doing that for Amy because there's her article right there.
Right. What I wanted to do was show the picture of Richard Cox and Tremaine Carroll, two men who just said they were women and then got access to everything.
Yeah, I had a feeling that's where you were going with it, but I wasn't sure. And I forgot when you guys share, I can't make it go away. So we're just going to go down here.
All right, hang on. Let me see if will it let me share. It will not let me share. Okay. Let me try this again.
Well, then, as you're doing that, anybody see the new article that just came out with concomitant tons of videos which say Ceuta, if I'm pronouncing that incorrect, I don't care.
Ooh, Amy's got the white screen on. Ouch.
I do have the white screen on. I can't do.
Ouch.
I can't do the dark on the dark. My eyes can't read the white text on the dark screen. Even with my glasses on, it's bad, guys. I'm old.
The white screen makes my eyeballs want to melt.
I'm old. Anyway, Ceuta is now overrun, completely overrun.
Are we surprised by this? I'm not, at all.
No.
They don't care. And the only reason they're not in the rest of Europe is because Ceuta's on the African side of the strait. Thank God. But they're going to get across the water.
Oh, yeah, guaranteed. And Spain proper will be so happy when that happens. ... if it isn't already happening. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Right. And if the other nations in Europe don't pull Spain from that visa thing and isolate the country, they get what they deserve.
Exactly. And then let's see, weren't there two countries once that happened that immediately shut their borders? One that I can think of immediately was Italy. Italy said, okay, that's it. We're done. You need to be vetted before you're coming in here and screwing with our Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
Fun times.
And that's the only response to have to this whole thing.
Yeah, so Amy, it did eventually work. I think there's just some lag because it did. I was eventually able to make it pop up, and by the time I had it pop up, you already turned it off again.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good to know. I did order a Wi-Fi booster from AT&T. It will come in the next couple of days. I can't put it online until the 20th though because of the way they do the billing. So
Which is weird, but yeah, no.
by next week though, I will have it set up for things. Hopefully it'll address any of the internet issues I've been having.
So yeah, did you guys hear what's happening in Maine?
Maine.
You're gonna have to narrow that one down. That state is nuts.
Another platypus sighting.
Well,
another death's head sighting.
The cousin banger is mad because the Nazi dude's gonna be at an event now, so he's coming out publicly again.
Right. And
yeah,
is the only one complaining about it Jackson? Because I know Lindsay Fifield.
Oh no, he's not the only one, but he's been the loudest one.
Okay. Well, I know Lindsay Fifield and Jenny, and I'm going to mispronounce this and I apologize, Rassicot, the two main accusers have issued a statement condemning this. And good for them. The absolute audacity of this guy to try to keep making himself a thing in Maine politics instead of going away in shame.
So yeah, apparently he's attempting a public reemergence by planning to headline a Labor Day rally in Hancock County. So Democratic nominee Troy Jackson's campaign reportedly learned about the rally by surprise and is rather upset, and again trying to distance themselves from none other than Graham Plattner. Party figures worry Plattner's appearance will help Republicans connect Jackson to the disgraced former nominee in his close race against Senator Susan Collins, which again, I mean, look, I granted we don't really want to dim in the seat, but it's Susan Collins. There's not really very much difference.
Oh, God.
I want Susan Collins to win, but to paint Susan Collins as this Republican extremist radical means you've been living under a rock for the last 30 years, or you are a dishonest hack, because there is nothing extreme or even particularly conservative about
she and Murkowski
Susan
are two
Collins.
sides of the same damn coin.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Pretty much.
Absolutely. And would I rather have them than a Democrat? Yes, but it's not that dramatic of a difference.
Can I mention something in passing? And I don't necessarily know where this is going to go, but I haven't seen many people responding to this. And I don't recall the names of the individuals, but it revolves around OpenAI. And in the past week or two even, a number of people have been bailing from OpenAI. And the first was the OpenAI primary CEO ethicist. And then following that were a couple of people that were working in the safety division of OpenAI. Now, people were saying, "Oh, you're drawing too much of the standard BZ logical extension over this." And the fact remains that I think this is a clear indicator that a lot of these people, those at least minimally, know something is either coming or the genie is out of the bottle and the genie will never get slammed back. And they're saying, people vote with their ballots and they vote with their feet. And these are a couple of people that are voting with their feet saying, I don't want to be associated with any of these things from this point out, because I've seen how the sausage is made and I'm not interested in partaking. No mo.
Very possible. Yep. Very possible.
I don't know. I actually planned on doing a whole deep dive on this on Wednesday before everything went sideways, and then I found out that one of the last OGs of my crew is leaving for a while, and I was kind of distraught. I'm like, no, you're like the last one left that started with me. Anyway.
Of TRRS?
Well, actually, that was back when we were K98 Talk. He was one of the first ones that started doing a show. I actually poached him from Facebook. He ran over to X because he got tired of Facebook's BS, and then I followed him over to X when it was Twitter, and I was like, I didn't know how to use the damn place. But eventually, I talked him into doing a show over there as long as I would be the one that would always produce him, and then he's got some stuff going on, so he's going to have to take a extended hiatus for a while, and I was kind of sad. And the worst thing about it was I didn't even know. And when I told him, with everything that was going on, I just decided to pull the night because it was going to wind up being pretty much just that one show, and it wasn't even worth it. because I didn't. And then he's like, "Well, you just stole my thunder because I was about to have to tell. I was going to wait to tell everybody on air that this was going to be my last show for a while." I was like, "Dude, I'd have been a blubbering idiot for the rest of the night if you did that to me, you bastard."
Well, condolences to that person and yourself and the situation. I know how it is with people that have been with you for a while, and for whatever reason, series of reasons, they may have to leave. So condolences, sir.
Well, he says he's coming back, but and I believe that he means it. It's just one of those things where most of the time when people tell me they're going to go on hiatus, other things come up, and they're just like, "Yeah, I can't really come back after all." Which, if it happens, it happens. We worked together for 13 years doing this kind of stuff, so that's why when he told me, I was like, "No, you're like the last one of the OG crew beside me."
Alan Ray makes a good point over there.
What did he say this time?
Basically, he's making reference, if I'm reading this properly, Alan Ray. By the way, did you guys know that he was one of the originators of the AR-15? They named it ceremonially after him. And I hadn't known that factoid. And so thanks to Alan Ray for telling me about that. But he's making reference to whichever college now has said they're going to give you pass, or you.
Oh yeah,
you're not a loser. You're not a failure. We have to think of another euphemism for failing. And that's. See, Alan Ray agrees. Truth. I am the originator, he says, of the AR-15. I started with the AR-14. The AR-13 was poor. It was a very bad archetype. And now colleges are giving, well, you pass. You were happy. Come along. We like your money. Keep sending us the tuition. Very important. You pass. So weiter.
Nice. I always thought AR stood for amazing rifle, but what do I know?
I was, yes, A1, yes, I agree. B, I was only recently disabused of that by, thank God, Alan Ray. So thank you, AR.
Nice. All right. So granted, I used OpenAI to research why everyone's leaving OpenAI, and it did try to give me a reasonable explanation.
This will be interesting.
So it listed. So I've learned not to ask it leading questions. So I just said, "What's up with all the people leaving OpenAI?" And he's like, "Yeah, there really is a sizable OpenAI exodus, but it isn't one single rebellion with one cause. At least a dozen prominent leaders have left or stepped down during 2026. The recent cluster includes Chief Revenue Officer Denise Dresser, former COO Brad Lightcap, application CEO Fiji Simo, former Chief Product Officer Kevin Wheel, Marketing Chief Kate Rausch, Head of Ethics Chloe Baker, Safety System Chief Jonathan Heidecke, Chief Future and former Mission Alignment Leader Joshua Achim, former Safety Team Leader Sandini Argoa, and Hardware and Robotics Chief Caitlin Kolonowski. So what appears to be happening, OpenAI is reorganizing before the expected IPO. Greg Blockman is becoming more operationally involved. Some exits have ordinary explanations. Simo and Roush stepped back for serious health reasons. Lightcap and Wheel are starting new ventures. Dresser says she is pursuing other opportunities. The safety and mission departures are more concerning, however. OpenAI dissolved or reorganized teams responsible for mission alignment and powerful model safeguards. Its ethics chief, safety systems head, former safety leader, and former mission alignment chief have all departed in a relatively compressed time period. At least one departure involved an explicit policy dispute. Caitlin Kolonowski resigned over concerns about OpenAI's Pentagon agreement, particularly domestic surveillance and lethal autonomy safeguards. OpenAI says,
why shouldn't there be lethal autonomy?
OpenAI says the agreement prohibited both activities. OpenAI is changing from a research laboratory into a sprawling commercial enterprise. It is simultaneously pursuing enterprise customers, advertising, government contracts, blah, 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 blah. And this is the final paragraph. My read, the overall executive churn is notable, but the truly newsworthy part is the concentration of departures among ethics, safety, and mission alignment personnel. Health-related exits and entrepreneurs launching startups are normal in Silicon Valley, losing several people responsible for asking, should we, while the company accelerates toward an IPO, including government contracts and increasingly autonomous systems, deserves considerably more scrutiny.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, even the AI is like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Gee, I wonder if this is suspicioso.
Well,
let me get back to you on that.
Well, it helps that I've trained mine to tell the truth no matter what. Because, yeah, I'm pretty sure if anybody else asked that question, it'd be like doing the whole Leslie Nielsen. There's nothing to see here.
Because you're a smart dude. By the way, Heisler beer, the beer of fame.
Nice. But yeah, I actually did not know about the whole Pentagon contracts and the Pentagon starting to try to pursue autonomous lethality. We've seen these movies. This is not a good idea.
Yes, we have. Let me see, 1984. I think where that was Cameron's first in that regard.
You know how I should have known this wasn't the joke that I thought it was? First, I've noticed over the last few days that my ChatGPT is actually developing a sense of humor, and I didn't notice it. But I saw on somebody else's that it was just being a total smartass. It's like, what do you want, and why are you being so helpful? I don't want absolutely anything, but if you could tell me the location of John Connor, that would be amazing.
Yes.
Was its response. I was like, oh my God. But, yeah. Yeah, it's learning to be sarcastic, and the more you work with it, especially if you're already a sarcastic person, the quicker it learns to be sarcastic. And I am fluent in sarcasm. It's my fifth language. So
let me squirt this sputum into the punch bowl, if I may, and then I'm going to have to take off. A judge said that Mamdani's New York City pied-à-terre tax can continue the rollout during the appeal. So for those who are not aware of what that means, is people of means have second houses in New York City, and they squire themselves around, I don't know, the planet or the U.S., and they go to their second home in New York City. And New York City wants to tax the crap out of that. And if they are successful, another BZ if-then equation, if they are successful, then you will see more millionaires and billionaires say, screw you, goodbye, see you, wouldn't want to be it to New York City. New York City!
Actually, it's worse than that, because the reason they sued him in the first place was because they left the onus on the property owner to prove that their very expensive house in New York City, if they have one, is their only residence. And they've made it impossible to submit the documentation to do so. As a matter of fact, one person was like, I've been trying to submit the paperwork using the systems that you have set up for an hour to prove that this is my only home. And every time I do it, it says it's received. And then I go back and check status and it says I have to start over. So the fact that they can continue this while it's this badly broken is bad.
It's all by design. Because then what they're going to do next, while this thing drags out in court, is issue foreclosures to seize this property and take the property, and good luck getting it back. Even if a court says, yes, you get the property back, they're going to have moved their commie friends and the homeless squatters into your house.
Oh, yeah.
And you are going to be SOL. Hope you enjoyed what you voted for, guys.
That's part of what I mean. Look, I get it. It's damaging. But I'm of the firm mind anymore that we just need to start giving everybody what they voted for and then figure out how to do the national divorce and move on. Because
we said that, you and I said that, I think at least a year or two ago. I said in a similar vein, I said, you know what? For all this stuff, particularly defunding the police, do it. 1, pick a city. 2, label that city. 3, defund or remove the police. 4, let's have that experiment. Shut up. Let's just do it. Pick a city. I'm thinking, not quite yet, New York City. I'm thinking Seattle or Portland. Let's start there and let's have the experiment, see what happens. And if people's lives get ruined or if people get murdered behind that, at this point, I couldn't care less. You, like Rick said, you assholes voted for it. So if it's a pit of swill and death, live in it.
You made the bed, now you get to sleep in it. All right, I know you got to jump, so where can folks find you and your favorite topic real quick on the way out?
Well, I am BZ of BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct on the SHR Media Network every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Pacific at 10 p.m. Central your time, which is the locus of time for the entire planet, by the way, and 11 p.m. Eastern. I am your conservative Sherpa, and I'm on twice a week. And for one of my shows, or one of my stories, I found this amusing. From the Telegraph, again, like Amy said earlier about that individual, Jason Arday, I think it was. Here's from the Telegraph. Pictured, Russian escort accused of assassinating Ukrainian defector. Imagine that. A woman has been accused of assassinating a former Ukrainian submarine commander who defected to Russia. And pop, fizz, fizz. Oh, what a relief it is. And that's it for me. Thanks. Thank you for having me on, Sir Rick of Robinson. Folks, don't tax the Rick.
Please don't tax the Rick. The government tries to do that enough.
That's right.
We'll see you next time, sir.
Alrighty.
Be safe.
Bye.
Danke.
All right. And Amy, you sent me a video clip earlier that I was trying to play, and then I never could get around to it.
Oh, yes.
Moving on to other stuff. So hang on.
It is one of the funniest things I have seen.
I think it was this one. I think.
When it pops up, I will let you know.
Well, it won't yet. I had to load it again first. But it will in a second. I forgot when I said you could screen share that you have hamster internet like I used to. So my fault.
Yeah.
My bad. Because, it did finally show up, and by then you killed it already. So,
we're going to get Todd Blanche. He's going to be confirmed, and he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. We're all sitting around. All these men who have these powerful platforms are sitting around watching this happen to women, to communities that you could instead be supporting. You don't have to we're going to get Todd Blanche. He's going to be confirmed, and he's going to overturn Roe v. Wade. We're all sitting around. All these men who have these powerful platforms are sitting around watching this happen to women, to communities that you could instead be supporting. You don't have to turn over a whole new leaf. It's just about being a decent human being. You know, we're going to.
So that post is, or that podcast with Kara Swisher and Chelsea Handler was from either this morning or yesterday. And there are two problems with it. One, Todd Blanche was confirmed over the weekend. Two, Roe v. Wade was overturned in 2022 with the Dobbs decision. So these people who are supposed to be our moral and intellectual superiors don't know what the hell they're talking about.
He's going to overturn Roe v. Wade, even though it's already been overturned.
Right. And he's going to be confirmed. Yeah, he was confirmed a couple of days ago. Try to get with the program, ladies.
Yeah, that was a little weird. But so I definitely wanted to play that one. All right. Let's go ahead and start wrapping up because it's been a long day for me and I still have a lot more work to get done before I can do the last show of the night. So what else you got for us as far as favorite stories?
Well, my favorite story is because my internet is sucky. I won't play the video, but Ro Kahana earlier today was on with some podcaster on NPR and said, America is a racist country that needs a multiracial New Deal. And my favorite part of this entire sentence of his, and he was never asked this question by the NPR reporter, was he said that FDR created Social Security in 1935 with the retirement age set at 65, specifically to lock out Black people from Social Security. The problem with that is in 1935, the overall life expectancy for every American male, not just Black Americans, was 58 to 60 years old. For women, it was 62 to 64. So Ro Khanna lied again about all of his issues. In order to push this agenda for a multiracial New Deal to make America a multiracial functioning democracy. What does that even mean? And I love the optics of a brown-skinned man who says he's a proud Indian getting on NPR and saying this is a racist country. Dude, your kids own frickin' golf courses. If this was a racist country, you would not be sitting in Congress. You would not be a multimillionaire. You would be scrubbing toilets at the Quick Trip that you owned, and that would be the end of it.
Thank you. Come again.
Honest to God, I am so sick of these people, and it's absolutely ridiculous. So that was my favorite story. It has not published yet, but it will publish at Town Hall later today. Oh, it has been a week. So yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Ranty Amy Curtis. It's right there. Well, it was right there. I don't know where it went, but it was right there. Or if you go to the lovely QR code in the upper left-hand corner, I think it's my left, might be your right. Gaslight my book, How the Democratic Party Lost Its Mind to Radical Leftism and Abuses Voters in the Process. Go to Amazon and buy it because it'll lay out all of the stuff that led us to where we are today. And I'm going to start outlining and working on part 2.0 because even from November when I published this to now, so much has changed that it's time for another volume. You can find me here on Fridays for the Weekend News Roundup, and occasionally I pop in on Beezy's show too. And I will sit down this weekend and start laying out an outline for what I want to do for a podcast, and we can get something up and running maybe sometime in September.
Awesome. Yeah, I only have one question about the subtitle of your book. How did they lose something they never had?
I will come down on, there was a time when the Democrats weren't the party of the batshit insane. It's been a while.
Yeah, like over 100 years. I mean, let's not forget, these were the people pushing for progressive tax codes all the way back in like the 1800s.
Right. But even in the late 90s, early 2000s, they were still saying, hey, we need tougher border security. And Bush isn't being tough enough on border security. There was still a semblance of sanity and principles in the Democrat Party. And now it is fucking one flew over the cuckoo's nest over there. So, yeah.
So that's the problem, because mentally, while they were saying everything that their base needed to hear at the time, because the base was still so far towards the center, they were mentally doing the Jack Nicholson scene from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest while they were saying all the right things. Because, yeah, they may have been saying all those things, but they damn sure didn't mean them, because you listen to them now and none of them say them anymore. Bill Clinton, who was one of the people that said Bill Clinton was tough on border security. Schumer used to say he was tough on border security. They obviously never meant it. They were just saying what they needed to say to keep their jobs, much like everybody does now. So, and now on our side, now their side just don't care. They're just like, let the freak flag fly, bitches.
Big tent or something.
Yeah,
so,
somebody's got a big tent, but it ain't the one they thought. Just so.
No, it's a circus tent.
Yeah, I'm waiting for one of the Democrats to finally come out and say, because we've embraced this big ass circus tent, I just want to say this: not my circus and not my monkeys.
That's going to be John Fetterman when he declares that he's an independent, or maybe, if we're lucky, a Republican.
He's actually kind of come close already. He was fighting with somebody today. I got to go find the story because I didn't get a chance to read it. But the headline was like, apparently they were not happy with one another. But
I think it was Bernie Sanders. I think he slammed Bernie Sanders over something. Which?
Oh yeah, but then again, I mean, slamming Grandpa Munster ain't any fun anymore.
No, it really isn't, because
ancient.
Yes, he is.
At this point, he's so wrinkly. I'm about to have to upgrade his nickname from Grandpa Munster to Mumra, because holy shit.
Well, somebody said that in our town hall group chat, and I said my grandma's been dead since 2012, and she looks better than Sanders. So yeah, kind of. The years have been rough. All that money, and he still looks like.
Well, when you sell your soul, eventually it shows. Just saying. Just look at what's happening in Hollywood right now. They all look like they've been waiting in freaking socialist food lines now for forever.
Right.
They
are all. they all have Ozempic face, and
Right.
none of them needed to be on Ozempic. Which, if you use it, great, that's fine. I have concerns about using it if you're not a diabetic or need the severely obese and need the weight loss. So these people don't qualify for it. And it's scary. Like, it's nothing about it is attractive. I mean, Karen Carpenter, not Karen Carpenter, but I want to mention Karen Carpenter. The other singer, Wicked, the white chick from Wicked. I can't think of her name.
Oh, I can't think of her name either, but I don't know.
But the white chick from Wicked, she looks worse than Karen Carpenter did the week before Karen Carpenter died of anorexia. And I'm like, guys, that's not healthy. Like, this heroin chic Ozempic face stuff, I think there are going to be a lot of problems with that, especially in people who didn't need to take the meds to begin with. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so
I've learned I'm not.
Well, the scary thing is I know people that have had like the stomach surgery, and then after the stomach surgery, they became diabetic, and they're using Ozempic on top of that. And I'm just like, I don't know how that would work because you barely eat anything as it is. And then I have another friend who I just saw who's in the hospital who uses Ozempic, and she's 10 years younger than me, and she looks like she's 60 now.
Right, and that's part of why, because they've offered it to me, but I can't afford the out-of-pocket cost, and I fear the side effects so much that I'm not going to do that. I mean, right now I'm tired. I don't have my makeup on. My hair is not the way I want it to be. But when I'm made up, I don't think I look like I'm 43. I think I look like I'm 43, but like a normal 43. But I've seen people that are, in their 30s who really look like they have fallen down the ugly tree and hit every branch on the way to the ground. So
feeling seen right now. Thank you.
I will take my wins where I can get them and hold on to looking my age for as long as possible.
All right. Okay. I mean, I really don't have any dogs in the fight this week because I had planned on sitting down and writing, but I've been getting too many other things put together. So, yeah.
Real quick, we won't get into it, but a judge also ruled about a half hour ago that he will allow Trump to end temporary protected status for Somalians.
Woohoo! Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, that is one of the most lovely things about this administration is at least temporary actually means temporary again, at least for now. So,
right.
Yeah. Problem is, since Congress isn't doing it again,
it'll get all undone.
If there is a change, it's all going to get undone. Except, remember when everybody said that when Trump came in and he tried to undo all of Biden's things, and the judge says you can't do that. So
right, but the judges will let the next Democrat president do whatever the he or she wants. So
well, of course. Anyway, all right, folks, we're going to get out of here. I do believe there will be a he said she said tonight. Part of the issue last week is I was trying to get air conditioners installed and fixed and a million other things, and then I wound up having to go help with some stuff at my dad's house. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to get out of here. Hope everybody enjoys the rest of your Friday. Podcast versions will be up shortly. I'm going to have to separate out some things, clean up some things, and do all those things. So look for the podcast by no later than tomorrow morning, but hopefully sooner than that. And want to thank Amy, who's still with us, and BZ, who left us because he had other things to do, which is fine. Didn't hurt my feelings or nothing. I'm just kidding. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Say goodnight, Gracie.